set? Are we set? All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you all for being here. We have a great crowd. Unfortunate for you, I'm going to be conducting the meeting today. We're going to excuse Mayor Randall. She's feeling a little under the weather today, so we hope she gets better and want to excuse her. We also, I believe, we have Councilman MacArthur on Zoom, if that's correct. So you might hear a voice from above every once in a while come in our meeting if you stay long enough. So we want to acknowledge that he's on Zoom. We're going to go ahead and get started today with let me get my notes out here. I think we have a prayer scheduled today. We have a prayer. Is Carmela Fitzpatrick here? Oh, thank you. From the Unity Church of Positive Living.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I was hoping to welcome her because I was so glad that she got the position. But
normally she'd be here. We'll pass that along to her.
I'm welcoming you. Well, thank you. And we believe in being positive living. So we're going to affirm everything in a thankful way that COVID is now over. And so that's just our way, especially with all the shots. It should be now over. We're looking forward to that. We're not going to be negative at all. So with that, I want to say a prayer. Thank you, Father, for these people that take their time and their desire to be a part of St. George, to go through all the necessary trivial and even enjoyable matters that have to do with St. George. We thank you for everyone that's in the room here and keeping them healthy and happy. And we thank you for everyone that's watching. We thank you for all the leaders of this country, the city, the world. And we thank you for your love and always being with us no matter what, even when we don't know it. So we thank you, Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you for that. Okay, we have some, if you've noticed, we have some scouts here today. They're going to, for a special reason, we're going to talk about in a minute, but I've asked them to help us with the pledge today. And Senior Patrol Leader Dalton Thielman, did I say that right? Okay, come on up and bring your troop up here and help us with the pledge, if you would. Remind us what troop you are.
I am Dalton Philman from Troop 0509, and we also have Pack 4802 for the Cub Scouts here.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, go ahead and lead us in the pledge if you would.
Please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before you guys sit down, Dalton, I'm going to have each one of your troop members just come by and tell us who they are. What part of town? Do you guys live all over town, or is there a certain part of town you guys come from?
We live all over town.
Perfect.
So.
Excellent. So if you would, each one by one, go by this microphone and let us know who you are. Before you go, though, Dalton, can you, let's see, what should we have him do? The oath or the motto? The oath? The oath's a little... What? Give us the scout oath if you guys could. Turn around to the.
I think I know it.
Yeah.
On my honor.
Do my best to do my duty
to God and my country, to obey the scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. 2.
Nice.
Very good. Very good. If each one of you would come by the microphone and just tell us your name. And tell us your rank as well.
I'm Peter Seavold, and I'm a first class.
Very good.
I'm Owen Alvarez, and I don't have a rank.
I'm Cole Russell, and I don't have a rank either.
You will soon.
My name is Christopher, and I'm a scout.
Very good.
I'm Thomas Kenobi, and I am tenderfoot. I'm Max Kenobi, and I have Weeblo.
Very good.
My name is Noah Henderson, and I'm a Weeblo 4.
Very good. And our Cub Scout pack?
My name is Henry, and I don't have a rank.
Very good. Reach up and pull that microphone down for your. There you go.
My name's Braxton, and I don't have a rank.
Very good. Thank you so much for being here, and to your leaders who sacrifice their time so they can help you all. Some great principles they learn in scouting, so thank you for that. Okay, we have a couple of, I guess that means we can move right into, we have a couple of proclamations here today. I guess this first one I can go ahead and read, being that I actually am an Eagle Scout, believe it or not. So, and then is there someone here that's going to make a presentation for Jackie? Or just the proclamation? Okay, all right, here we go. Whereas Jackie Cummo, did I say that right? Kamau. Are we going to have to take a vote here? Excellent. Come right up to that microphone right there and say it one time for me.
Camo.
Camo. So I think I said it right the first time. Very good. If you'll just stand right there and I'll read this proclamation. Whereas Jackie Camo has been a volunteer with Boy Scouts of America for 38 years. Most of those years in St. George, and whereas through countless hours in scouting, Jackie has served as a den leader, merit badge counselor, Eagle advisor, Catholic counselor for religious emblems, and the chartered organization representative for multiple packs, and whereas she has been recognized for her exemplary service in scouting with the Cub Scout Award, District Award of Merit, Silver Beaver Award, St. George Catholic Emblem, the Influence Women in Scouting Award, and the Marvin M. Lewis Award from the National Elks Association. And whereas she has spent a lifetime devoted to children, including her career as a school teacher. And whereas Jackie will step down as the longtime chartered organization representative for Cub Scout Pack 509, she will continue to volunteer as her schedule allows, helping educate and mold young minds. Now, therefore, I, in behalf of Mayor Michelle Randall and the City Council of St. George, Utah, do hereby proclaim Friday, March 19th, 2021, as Jackie Como Day in the city of St. George.
I'd rather have a hug.
Jackie, I'm gonna let you say something, and then don't go anywhere because I'll bring this down to you.
Okay. I am really in awe, not only at the award, but at the number of people that are here on my behalf. But I have to tell you, over the years, it's not the leader. It's the families and the den leaders and the scoutmasters that have done their job. I shouldn't take all the credit. Thank you.
No, thank you. And our future is bright. Yes, give her another hand.
We're not going to let her get off that easy. Leadership is the most important and very important, so thank you.
Well said. Anything else, council members?
That was one of the most impressive resumes I've ever heard. Thank you for all of your service.
Thank you.
I was just going to say our future is bright because of people like you who are willing to take the time to teach these young people all those principles of scouting and Cub Scouts. So, do you have anything, Vardell, you want to add?
I would just echo everything that's been said, having been the father of a scout, an Eagle Scout, and a mom. And a mom who made that happen. Thank you.
I'm going to bring this proclamation down. We want to get a picture. And I think it'd be really, really cool to have all those scouts standing here while we take that picture. Okay. Jackie, you right here.
My elk friends are here too. My elk
Very good. So what we should do is take another picture with them, if you want, or do you want to bring them all up now?
doesn't matter.
Okay, let's do one with the elks. Once we get this one done, then we can move the scouts over. Tighten up. Yeah. You guys scoot in a little.
Turn a little bit, guys. Turn and tuck in.
I'm shaking.
There we go. You should be very proud.
1, 2, 3.
Boy Scouts.
Very good. Do we have some of the Elks members here that want to come up and get in the picture?
We do.
Let's do that. Let's do another one with them. Excellent. Come on up.
You've got scout leaders back there that should be in here too. Come on up. Kendall, jump up here.
Here, y'all make me hold. We'll get behind you guys. How are you? Good to see you.
You need to take the mask off for just a minute.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Just a minute.
Thank you. Well, I Thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Some of my favorite memories as a young man was being in scouting, and quite frankly, those people like Jackie, those leaders who took the time to spend time with some sometimes not so grateful young men. So. Okay, we have another proclamation that's that we want to present. I've asked Councilman Smethurst to present this one, being that he is a military veteran.
If I can get through this. Whereas the United States of America Vietnam War commemoration gives us the opportunity for all Americans to recognize, honor, and thank our Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice during the Vietnam War from November 1st, 1955 to May 15th, 1975. And whereas more than 11,000 organizations across America have joined with the Department of Defense as commemorative partners to honor the National Vietnam veterans, including all 9 chapters of the United States organization, National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, and whereas this commemoration includes the 9 million Americans, approximately 6.4 million living today, who served in the United States Armed Forces during this period, and makes no distinction between those who serve in country, in theater, or were stationed elsewhere during those 20 years, all answered the call of duty. And whereas March 29th, having been designated the National Vietnam War Veterans Day in accordance with the Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017, the last day the U.S. troops were on the ground in Vietnam, and now recognized as a special day to honor those who served and to extend gratitude and appreciation to both them and their families. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Randall, along with the City Council of City of St. George, do hereby proclaim Monday, March 29th, 2021 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day in the City of St. George, and urge all departments of government, civic, fraternal, and patriotic groups, and other citizens generally to participate wholeheartedly in its observance. I witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause to be affixed the seal of the City of St. George, Utah, this day, 18th day of March, 2021. Michelle Randall.
Yeah, come up here, you guys. You veterans, come up here. Can we get you guys up here in the front, and Brian will come down and present this. We'd like to take a picture, and if there's anybody that wants to say anything, we'd like to give you that opportunity.
Come on up here and let's face this way. Face this way? Yes, so you can get pictures.
Jimmy, can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I've had the privilege of getting to know some of these gentlemen and working close by them when I was serving on the Veterans Board. And this is such a well-deserved proclamation. We all know that the Vietnam veterans weren't always treated like they should be. And now we're finally giving them the honor and the recognition that they deserve. And these are just a handful of the great men that we have in our community who served in Vietnam. And I wish I could be there to say thank you to each one of you individually, but it's been an honor to rub shoulders with you. So thank you so much.
Is that Michelle?
Sorry, in case you didn't know, that's Mayor Randall on Zoom. So I assumed she was on. I should have made sure that she had a chance to speak. So yeah, just so you know. Did you want to say something?
To her.
Okay. Hey, can you hear us okay, Michelle?
I can.
Okay.
Michelle, this is Bruce.
Hey, Bruce.
Your nemesis. We thank you as individuals and as a group. This is just some of us, very few of us that are here in this area from the Vietnam era. A few of us have passed this last year. We lost some. We expect that COVID will take its toll before it's over on some of the rest of us. But we thank you for this proclamation. We thank the country for this day from 3 years ago. I remember when the first one was, that people came off the streets at parades, shook our hands and thanked us. We never got that when we came home, and it puts a lump in your throat and a tear in your eye, even a Marine. So we appreciate all that the city has done. I know Michelle has been steadfast in her recognition of the veterans. I have worked with her in that capacity. So we thank her on a personal note from all of us.
Thank you to you guys. I know we say that a lot, but truly, the sacrifice you all made, and again, like Bruce said, not always a hero's welcome when they came home. Better late than never. All right, so welcome home.
May I say a few words?
For sure.
Hi, I'm Patricia Mosman, and I'm representing Daughters
Pull that
of the
microphone
American
down so we
Revolution. Yes. And I just wanted to let you know that this proclamation will be framed and will be out at the new Wreaths Across America exhibit that will be out at the Washington Fair April 16th and 17th. We're also going to be honoring any veteran that comes through with a personal certificate, and our Vietnam veterans with their pin and proclamation and certificate also. So we'll have those ready for anyone that shows up, and we greatly appreciate the council and Mayor Randall doing this for us.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say, being a veteran as well, I have a great gratitude for what these people have done for us. I was a little later in life, but I know what they went through was a lot worse than I did, and I appreciate every single one of you for the loyalty and duty that you had for all of us. And I know the intentions were all at heart to take care of us, and you did that, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. From one.
Anyone else? Okay. Sincerely, thank you, and thank you for being here. Okay, did we have any other pre-agenda items? Oh yeah, hold on a second. Let me get my notes here. Oh yes, is Emerson here? Did I see? Oh, okay, yeah. Come up here and tell us about getting outside.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you today. So I'm the recreation manager for the city of St. George, and we want to take a minute and just recognize Matt Mizukawa and his nonprofit Get Outside for the great work they're doing with the youth in our community. They are striving to get our youth outside and active, and they're doing a wonderful job. We have been partnering with them for about 2.5 years now with our outdoor recreation programs for youth, supervised by Mike Swartz there, doing a wonderful job. And I just want to give Matt a couple of minutes to talk about his nonprofit and the great work that they're doing.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity to introduce Get Outside to the council and to, I guess, everyone here. I want to thank the veterans as well. My father was a veteran or served in the Air Force during the first Gulf War. And my grandfather and his brothers served in World War II against their kinsmen, the Japanese, on behalf of our country too. So veterans have a sweet spot in my heart for sure. And I'm also grateful for what has transpired with the Boy Scouts and with Jackie Kumo. All of their efforts with the Boy Scouts and with Jackie, revolve around the youth, which is a huge part of what Get Outside is all about. They are in the center of everything that we do as an organization. And so I just wanted to take just a couple minutes today to introduce what we're doing and probably most importantly, why we're doing it. I don't know if this is coming up on your screen yet. Let's see. How do I do presenter? So there's a mounting, concern and problem with the youth, in my opinion. And there have been studies after studies that have shown this problem. This is the first one. This is back in 2010. There you go. So this was back in 2010, and they attempted to quantify how much time kids spend in front of a screen, whether that's a computer, a TV, a phone, whatever. So again, this is in 2010, and they found that kids between the ages of 8 and 18 spent 7.5 hours a day in front of a screen, which was incredible to me. And this did not include what they spent in front of a screen at school. What they noticed too was that all of this media that they were consuming offered a constant stream of messages about families, peers, relationships, gender roles, sex, violence, food, values, clothes, and an abundance of other topics too long to list. So basically, this media that they're consuming is shaping who they are, what they believe, and what they want to be, which is kind of scary. So fast forward 5 more years in 2015, another follow-up study showed that teenagers, 13 to 18, spent 9 hours, so 8 hours and 56 minutes on average a day in front of a screen. And so as I read these studies, two big questions came into my mind. What is the effect on this mass consumption of media on these young minds? And what is the long-term effect of this sedentary lifestyle? Because if they're playing video games, they're not outside hiking and getting exercise. And so I don't think we really know. I guess the short answer is, but the CDC has definitely recognized some trends. So from a physical health standpoint, obesity, childhood obesity is skyrocketing. Hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, sleep apnea, all these problems as far as physical health are mounting. But for me, the biggest thing is mental health. So if you look at this list, again, this is from the CDC webpage, all of these mental health disorders are skyrocketing in the youth section. So everything from depression, anxiety, to ADHD, to cyberbullying, to suicide and self-harm. Not that screen time is the only thing that's causing that, but I believe that it is a huge contributor. Substance abuse as well is a mounting problem. And so that was basically the genesis of Get Outside. We recognize that while there's so much influence on these kids to consume media, to have this sedentary lifestyle, there is a void in general for influences or opportunities for them to reverse those trends and to simply get into the outdoors. The state of Utah came out with this outdoor recreation vision, and due to the shortness of time, I listed all of the things that were cited in that document as far as the benefits of simply getting out into the outdoors and engaging in outdoor recreation, and I'll highlight some of them. So lower risk of anxiety and depression, decreased ADHD, better performance in school, creativity, brain development, ability to negotiate with others, capacity for attention, mental well-being, family bonds, sense of community. So I don't know any parent who doesn't want these things for their kids. So how can we get kids outside? What are the barriers? So as I've, again, done kind of some digging and background research on this problem, there are, for me, three main barriers that keep kids from getting outside. One is a lack of opportunity, right? Sometimes their parents don't do these things. No one in their circle of friends does it, so they don't. Education and then finances. So a lot of outdoor recreational activities, cost a significant amount of money to get into. And so in short, I'm going to skip all this stuff, again, because of time. In short, what we've done is we're working through the school district to start get outside clubs in each of the high schools in the region, both in Washington County and in Iron County. And we are just basically providing kids opportunities to rock climb and mountain bike, hike, ski and snowboard, get out on the lake and wakeboard. Anything that gets the kids outside, we want to support. So we have, so here's some pictures. This is a night climbing event that we did. We climbed until about 10 o'clock p.m. This was a group that we took up to Bryan Head. This is out at Sand Hollow. And again, I want to recognize we could not have done the great majority of the activities and events that we've done without the City of St. George and the support of Emerson and Mike and St. George Outdoors. I'm going to, real quick. So as far as our outreach thus far, we've only been active for about 2.5 years, but thus far we've taken about 200 youth rock climbing, 400 youth skiing and snowboarding at Bryan Head, over 200 youth out to the lake to wakeboard, hundreds of youth hiking and such, and also engaging in service projects as well. We had an aid station at the St. George Marathon 2 years ago, and so we had our kids handing out Gatorade and oranges. So real quick, if I may, I'm going to just put together or show a video that we had made. Let's see if this works.
Stop the share and run the video from the main screen. So
okay.
Stop your share. Perfect. And then go ahead and reshare. Right. And then launch the video from
this one. Perfect. Okay.
There you go.
So again, I just wanted to thank the City of St. George, the support of SGO, St. George Outdoors. We're excited. We have a lot of plans going with St. George Outdoors moving forward to collaborate on events and activities. And so I wanted to thank the council as well and express my gratitude to all of you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Matt. I agree. In my own family, I've noticed that with my own children. If you let them and you don't provide opportunities or education of what they can do outside, they can spend a lot of time in front of the screen. There's just so many opportunities. And mental health has become a tremendous problem for not only our youth, but for even adults as well. And a lot of that does come down to the amount of time spent on the screen. I do believe that. So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, Duke. I had a phone call a few years ago from Marshall Topham, and he, I think, helped Matt a little bit, or he was really excited about this, and we were talking about how the Bicycle Collective could coordinate with them. But for me, this is just such an amazing and generous program, because I do recognize that some of us have the opportunity to introduce our kids to things like this, and then there's so many families that just don't. The parents don't have time, or they don't have, like Matt said, the finances, or whatever it is that is the obstacle. And it really is easier just to put our kids in front of a screen, especially when we're busy and we're stressed. And so I feel like this program is just going to be, it already has been, and it will continue to be such a huge benefit for our community. So thank you for everything you're doing and continue to do. And we're really happy that the City of St. George gets to be part of it.
Anything else? And Greg and Michelle, sorry I didn't recognize you sooner, but if you have anything, just chime in whenever you want. So,
I think I'll take an opportunity to chime in since you gave me that. The presentations tonight are just amazing. I'm so appreciative for all the things that all these groups are doing for our community, from veterans to getting the youth outside. I think that's so needed. So these are incredible. Just thanks for all you do. It's awesome.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, if there's nothing else, what else do we got?
I would just add quickly, here at the city, it's impossible for us to offer everything. There's no way that we can provide all of these different services to our residents without the help of the private sector. And it's huge when we have somebody like Matt and his colleagues step up with an organization like Get Outside and partner with us and really lead the way in many ways to provide these types of activities. It's just incredible. Matt, thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
And Matt, if people want to have more information, website, tell me. Yeah. It's just www.getoutsidutah.org. Easy. Getoutsidutah.org. Perfect. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, we've got one more item that we want to cover quickly. We'll ask Shane McAfee to do that for us.
Perfect.
Thank you. Just real quickly, as much for the community that's here or might be listening as is for you, but we have our 42nd Art Festival coming up, annual, and we always have the City Council and the Mayor help judge that contest, and I've put an invitation up there by your desk. That's going to be April 2nd, and we'd love to have you come down and be a part of that. You'll be able to select your own favorite piece of art and artist, and we'll have a gift basket and a ribbon to hand out and take your picture with the artist. And just let everybody know that we're excited to be back in the festival business. We're glad to be back outside. If for some reason one of you can't make it, then our wonderful city manager is, he's adept at selecting artists. He filled in for a city council person a couple of years ago, and that's our featured artist this year, in fact. So he's got a keen eye for the art. So we'd like to see you and hope you can do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, just so you know, too, over the years, I've kind of graduated from selecting art. My wife started making me buy the one I select, so I have to be very judicial in which I pick, if you know what I mean. But we have found some really cool stuff, even for as artsy as I am, I enjoy the art show.
It is
So,
great.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot
glad
of fun.
we get to redo it this year.
Yep. Super excited. Okay, that's all our pre-agenda items.
That's it.
So we're just ready to get right into it.
40 minutes later, let's get right into it.
Nice.
So on the consent calendar tonight, we have 2 items. It's the contract with Quest and then the HIDA grant award. And so we've reviewed those as staff. They comply with all of our regulations. They're ready to go. We would accept a motion from the council. If you'd like to discuss either of these items, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Is there anything on there we want to pull out and discuss, council? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve those 2 items on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Vardell and a second by Brian. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Did we get you, Greg?
Yeah, I think so. Aye.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm getting old, man. You got to speak up. Okay, motion passes.
Item 2 is a public hearing. This is for program year 2020, our annual action plan for CDBG, and Jen is going to do this presentation for us.
So this has come before you a few times. Staff's made some changes that HUD requested to put in more COVID-specific language. We've also added prior year funds to help purchase fire turnouts for our fire department. So those are the changes from the last time you've seen it. No public comment has been received during the public comment period.
Questions, council? So we do need to have a public hearing, correct? So I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for those who have come to discuss item number 2 on the CDBG grant. No one? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing and come back. Do we need to make a motion on this to approve? Okay, so I'll come back to the council for a motion.
I'm grateful we have these funds, and I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Danielle, second by Vardell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Item 3 is also a public hearing. This is consideration of approval for a subdivision amendment at Anasazi Hills, Entrada Phase 2. Wes is going to do this one.
There he goes. Okay, item 3 is a request to consider a subdivision amendment for Anasazi Hills at Entrada, Phase 2, amending lots 47 and 43 by adjusting lot line and the public utility easement along the common lot line. So basically, it's just to adjust, this is where the new adjustment of the lot line will be, and then they had to adjust the utility easements to mirror that lot line adjustment.
Pretty simple.
Pretty straightforward, yeah.
Any questions? This is a public hearing as well, so I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for anyone who has come to discuss this item. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for your action.
I make a motion to approve the subdivision amendment for the Anasazi Hills at Entrada Phase 2, amending Lot 47 and 53 by adjusting the lot line and the public utility easement along the common lot line.
Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Mayor and Council, item number 4 is to consider whether to approve the acquisition through eminent domain of some property along River Road. This property is located along River Road, close to Riverside Drive. And the property owners, I think they're the Seegers, have been very good in the past to work with us. In fact, we had to acquire some property in the corner for the existing right turn lane there because the roadways have become more busy, as you've noticed. Now we are widening the road so that we can accommodate the additional left turn lanes, and also the bridge widening further to the south. In this case here, they have been great to work with, but they've got a mortgage holder that has been unresponsive to our request to do a deed of reconveyance. So in a sense, this is a friendly condemnation. They've already agreed to allow us to occupy the property and begin construction. So we really appreciate their understanding and cooperation there. What we need here, though, is for the council to approve through eminent domain the acquisition of that property, just so that we can legally retain title of that property against any mortgage holder that might not be responsive in this case.
Does that make sense, council? I think it's important to reiterate that fact. Eminent domain is not something we do a lot here in St. George, or that we have done a lot, and that we take very seriously. So it is important to note this is a friendly condemnation.
And I will point out that if the property owner is here or present on Zoom, we would give them the opportunity to speak if there was something they wanted to say. So, Mayor Pro Tem, I did not know if you wanted to ask right now if they're present.
Absolutely. Is the property owner here or on Zoom? Okay. All right. Barring that, this is not a public hearing, correct?
That's correct.
And so we just need a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve the acquisition for eminent domain of that property specified here.
Perfect. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this property through the acquisition of eminent domain. I can't talk tonight. I probably shouldn't have made a motion. Acquisition through eminent domain to be used for a roadway, and temporary easement to be used for widening River Road in the vicinity of 1230 East, 1050 South.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, a second by Vardell. Any discussion on the motion? See none. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Good afternoon, Council. So, item number 5 is to consider approval of an ordinance for a zone change amendment to the ledges at St. George PD plan development on 12.5 acres located at approximately 1550 West, 5150 North. So, let's see. So here you can see the location of the proposed addition to the ledges plan. We have the ledges here, and over here we have the equestrian facility. So with this proposal of 12 acres, they would like to add it to the ledges PD, which would add approximately 35 units to that total. Here you can see the zoning map. Here's the location here of the proposal, and it is contiguous to the already zoned area PDR. The general plan designates this as LDR, which is low density residential, which allows for 1 to 4 units, and they are proposing that they would not exceed 3 units per acre. Therefore, should given the 35 total units. Here's the updated overall plan. This area right here in blue is the proposed addition to the plan. There's also another portion to this. With the original proposal of the ledges, there were 2 18-hole golf courses. Since that original ownership, they've removed one of those courses. The applicant has calculated 18-hole course to be approximately 150 acres. And they used a density of 2 units per acre to come up with 300 extra units that they would like to add into the plan. So currently the approved plan is 2,376 units total. They're asking for 2,600 units, and that would be an increase of 224 units. So they're not actually asking for the 300 total, only 224. And with that, I can answer any questions.
So are there 2 different requests here? One for the transition from the golf course to residential, and then a second one to change the ordinance from agriculture and mining or whatever it was to also now be PD?
Correct. Yeah, correct. To add the 12.5 acres into the PD.
Okay.
And then add the additional units onto the already approved total.
So with the removal of the golf course and that all being open space, how did that play out with the remaining land? How much of it stays open space? I mean, it sounds like if they're doing 2 homes per acre, they're obviously not going to be all half-acre lots, so there's probably quite a bit of open space, I'm assuming.
Yes, I would assume the same thing. To be honest, I'm not totally sure how much more the open space would be.
So I'm a little bit kind of lost here. The Planning Commission recommended approval with the zoning change amendment with the comments conditioned outlined in the staff report. So what are those conditions being outlined?
We didn't really have any conditions in that staff report.
So even with the increase in units, we're at 2,600, did you say? What was the final?
That's the request, 2,600. Currently, it's like 2,376 that are approved.
But the original was like 2,700, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
so this is actually, so originally it was approved at like 2,700. Then we reduced it because of the golf course. Mm-hmm. Now we're going back to increase it because the golf course has been removed, and we're still below the original approval. Is that fair to say?
Yes. Yes, correct.
Move all those around? Okay. All right. That's how I was working it out in my mind.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So what's before us tonight then is the zone change amendment, and then just also, I guess, our authorization or approval to their general plan to allow it to transition from the golf course to additional residential development?
Yeah, so the zone change amendment would be the addition of the 12.5.
Correct.
And then also the addition of the extra units, which are coming from that golf course not being installed.
I guess the confusion, at least for myself, is none of that is included in our agenda, at least not on mine. All that I'm seeing is the zone change amendment and not the transition from the original plan and then the golf course and now back to closer to the original approved plan.
I think if you read down in the proposal 1 and 2, it talks about that. I don't know if that was discussed at Planning Commission. I'm assuming it was.
Yes, we did discuss it.
Okay.
So I think if you see under proposal, there's 1 and 2, it does give a little background on that. It is a PD, so kind of scrutinizing it a little more. Does that make sense? Maybe reading through that might help you.
I see what Councilman Curtis is saying. I think that you're just asking, because it's basically the wording in here is, thus the net effect is,
Right.
So I'm not sure, but the request is simply for the zone change. So as far as our verbiage, do we just need to approve the zone change, and then that automatically triggers the net effect that it's mentioning, or do we need to actually make mention of the additional units?
Yeah, I would say that the way that the zone change application was provided to the city by the applicant is inclusive of not only annexing the 12.5 acres, also designating what land use that property would have as part of the Ledge's master plan, and also recognition of the new upper ceiling on the number of units. I believe that those are all inclusive in the zone change motion.
Does that help?
Yes.
Pardo?
Yes. And again, I just wanted to clarify so that if I'm the one making the motion, which I think I'm ready to do, that I covered everything that was the intent of the motion. And so
Very good.
when you're ready, I'll take a shot at it.
Any other discussion? Go for it.
I'd make a motion that we approve an ordinance for a zone change amendment to the ledges at the St. George plan development on 12.5 acres located at approximately 1550 west, 5150 north.
Second.
Is that okay? That motion, the way that's made?
I like the motion, but I'm looking over at our city attorney and community development director. I want to make sure that they're not discussing this item.
Yeah, that's why I was
Are you guys
stalling
on this
here.
one?
We'll wait for
Let's
our
get some
brilliant
clarification.
legal
Make sure we're on the same
mind,
page here.
Get some Jeopardy music
our
going.
super brilliant legal mind to weigh in.
All right. We were discussing this over here because the ledges overall is subject to a development agreement. And we're in the past, John's informed me that we've made some minor changes in the number of units, which I didn't understand that we had done that before. But now we're removing officially the golf course, the remaining holes, and bringing in new acreage. The question is, do we go back and amend that development agreement to reflect all of this? Because it's going to be sorely out of whack from what's actually being approved by the council and what's on paper in the development agreement.
Perfect.
So I guess I turn now. I mean, my preference legally is to amend the development agreement because of the state of the law in Utah, where we are being held to that standard that's in that agreement. If we're going to go back and enforce that now, and it's not reflective of what we're approving as a council, I have concerns on that. Maybe there were some minor changes in those before, but where we're removing the golf course, the remaining holes, and bringing in additional acreage. And there are two parties up there, as you know, that we've dealt with in the past that have disagreed over who can make changes to what. I just wonder here, and I apologize that I wasn't aware of this, but and that we have to think out loud here. But I want to make sure that there's no question going forward for the developers as they continue to develop between those two different parties on who has a right to do what under the development agreement.
Okay.
So with that, I turn to John and to the city manager and say, what are your preferences on this? I see that
Stacy's here, yeah.
And if we could, if you want to continue, we could just table this item right now, move on. Stacy and I could step out and have a conversation because I'd like to hear his input.
So saying we could table it till later in the agenda?
Yeah, later in the agenda tonight.
Perfect. Are you okay with that, Stacy? You can, okay. I would entertain that motion, council, if somebody wants to make that motion.
Let me try that.
Okay. Hey, what do I have to do with the current motion that was made? It was made and seconded. Can we?
If they withdraw, if the maker of the motion withdraws.
Perfect.
And I so do withdraw my original motion.
Perfect.
And
Second.
I would make a motion that we table this item until later on in the agenda.
Second.
Perfect. Okay, we have a motion to table this item till later, a little bit later in the agenda, and a motion by Vardell, a second by Brian. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, where that's being tabled and that's not actually approving the ordinance, we don't need a roll call, right? Okay. Keep me on track. Six, moving on to 6, is that where we're at?
Yes. So item 6 is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from A1 agricultural to RE residential estate 12.5 on approximately 7.09 acres located at the corner of River Road and 2800 South. You can see the property here. You have River Road coming down this way, 2800 South here. The zoning map currently is A1 for the agricultural. As you can see, surrounded this property is you have the RE 12.5 to the east, to the south, and then R110 to the north. And then the general plan is LDR, low density residential. Again, that's 1 to 4 units per acre. So with this item, when it was addressed at Planning Commission, there was a lot of public input, a lot of public comment at that meeting, not specifically related to this rezone to 12.5, but to the surrounding area, the drainage issues and stuff these neighborhoods have. So I think Wes is going to come up and give you a little history and answer any questions you can.
Yeah, so, excuse me. So one of the questions that came up during Planning Commission was why this section right here was left open when the two developments upstream up towards Little Valley Road, it was piped. So when those two subdivisions came in, both the city, the Conservancy District, and the developers all agreed to pipe that section of storm drain with each development. And so all three parties participated in piping that storm drain line down to this area right in here. When this development here, Sunterra, came in, there was 8 lots, let's see, 1, 2, 3, maybe 9 lots. It came in, the Conservancy District said they did not want to participate at that time. So as we looked at it, the developer came back and made the comment, well, that I only have 9 lots, I can't pay to put that whole storm drain line in there by myself and still develop my property. At that time, the city agreed, well, okay, we'll do it in the future, and we'll allow you to develop. And so that's why that portion was not installed with the development project, is because the parties that originally had helped contribute did not want to contribute at that time. So that was one of the questions they had as to why that was left open. The city does have right now an application into the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and NRCS, basically to address the drainage from from Fort Pierce up to where these lines come in from the Washington detention basins, which is over there by the Atkinville property. All the way over there on the east end. So we have an application in right now to try to fix this, and some of that will be, when that's approved by them, is to pipe these sections right through here. So those detention basins that we brought, that you'll see soon on the Webb Acres property. You saw it on the Arbors one, the preliminary plat there. Those basins are all part of this NRCS thing to be able to, instead of piping it, we're putting in detention basins along there to reduce the flow so we don't have to put in a whole nother pipe. But this section, the request is to pipe it from here all the way out to the Fort Pierce. So that was some of the discussion that was had.
So that's something we're hoping to get done, or that have to be done?
I mean, it's not an emergency. I didn't realize this, and so Jay was explaining it. It's not an emergency. It's just a request through the NRCS, so it's not going to happen immediately. It's something that will happen in the future as those funds become available.
So that's kind of confusing because, I mean, I guess it's not an emergency because that property is still sitting the way it is, because that property is underwater every time there's a big rain. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's not an emergency today because because there hasn't been any building on that. But if we allow them to build that up, what kind of problem does it create? Is it then an emergency?
So back in the 2009 flood study that FEMA did along the Fort Pierce Wash, this used to be, the floodplain came up somewhere through here. It was taken out at that time when they went in and did a reevaluation of the Fort Pierce Wash. So this parcel down here is, but then it loops in and it doesn't take into that property. It is a low spot. You're exactly right. It is, and we've always had concerns about that as how drainage would get out of here when this property develops. So, my comment at Planning Commission was, as a preliminary plat comes forward, we would require, kind of like we did at Webb Hill, we required like the whole drainage study to be done with the Webb Hill preliminary plat and zone change, so that we knew what we were approving was going to work and function and so forth. That would be the same request here, is when this comes in for a preliminary plat, we're going to require that full evaluation at the preliminary plat stage to make sure that we're not approving something that we're not comfortable with as far as dealing with the drainage. Mm. That was the recommendation that staff made.
But as far as the drainage that's there now, though, is that the city's responsibility to get it from where it stands now to the Fort Pierce? Is that what we're saying, that we need to have that done prior to this, or? Sorry.
No, I mean, they may be able to address it based on how they develop their site. What the city is doing with NRCS is just so the storm drain line that's in there now upstream of here, it's a 66-inch line. It's very flat. It can't carry a lot of water. And into it feeds those detention basins from Washington, plus a lot of the drainage south of this area come into that. So it's undersized to carry all of that. So as we went back to we've requested from the NRCS, we've done a study, gave them two options. One was to install a brand new line up here that would, parallel that 66-inch line, or put detention basins in all along, and then fill in the areas where there isn't storm drain line, and thus reduce the flows so that 66 can carry it. We've chosen to go that route, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
So Wes, help me understand why the Water Conservancy District had an appetite for helping with this and then they didn't.
I don't know. I wasn't here when Meadow Valley Farms or Meadow Valley Estates came in, or Coyote Springs I was, but I wasn't really into that conversation. When this one came in, I went up to the city manager, explained to him they're coming in, we're requesting that be piped. He indicated that the Conservancy District was not willing to participate at that time. I don't know why. And that's where we had that discussion and the owner decided that, we'll just leave it open. Otherwise, you're basically not allowing that property owner to develop his property.
So another question, is this part of the old canal system? Or is this just drainage?
No, it is part of the old canal system. In fact, it's actually owned by the canal company. It's a 50-foot easement through there that is the canal company's easement. But over time, as development to the north, like Jedora and Red Butte and they've all dumped into that and so forth. And as you go to the east too, same thing. That pipe's now, so when to the east of here, they went in and got rid of the ditch and put in a 54-inch irrigation line to replace the ditch, and at the same time installed that 66-inch line to then collect the drainage from the south.
So I guess I'm asking that because are there still ag spaces that need that water conveyed through that drainage?
I think the only one, maybe the Tim Stewart piece right here across the street from River Road, that would be on there. Everything else, so the irrigation water comes down to Larry Blake's property there on Little Valley Road. There's a manifold system there that then takes it and disperses it to the users. Then the line from there, down through here, it's actually upsized to a 72-inch from that point. That's just used as if they get too much water, they need to release it, they just discharge the water down at the irrigation water and out to the Fort Pierce. I know this field did have use of it. I don't know if they still do. And someone told me that the golf course did, but I don't know if that's correct or not. I haven't followed up on that.
But the canal does, they can run the water clear to the Fort Pierce, right? Because don't they sluice it sometimes or clean it?
Yeah, and so that they do that up there at that manifold, and then it comes down through here and then out to the Fort Pierce.
Yeah, I think a lot of the concern here is this is when you go from ag to residential, this is a very low spot, and a lot of us have been by there and seen it covered in water.
Right.
And so the question is, once the development's done and they're gone and the residents have bought their nice little home there, who's going to get the blame if it's not done right? So I think that's, not speaking for everybody, but that's kind of the concern I think that some have. What's the elevation difference? Is it from where the road ends right there in that what'd you call that?
Sun Terra.
Sun Terra. Is it quite
it drops down quite a bit.
It's not as much as you think. So we went out. I had someone go out and survey it for me because I knew that this has always been an issue. There's actually only about a foot or two drop, if that, to River Road.
Really?
As far as that goes. There's actually more this way. Actually, it's almost flat, which is surprising. I didn't think that, but it's almost flat from that end of that road to River Road. If you go right here where the low area is, it's actually, there's a little less than a 2-foot drop from here to here. So yeah, when it develops, it's going to have to require some real creative design on how they're going to deal with that drainage that comes down through there.
Yeah, so ours tonight is to consider the zone change, and then from there it'll go from there.
You'll see a preliminary plat if that's what you choose to approve.
Yeah. So there you go. It's all just water under the bridge.
Let's hope so.
I think every time I hear about water law, I just feel more confused by the end of the explanation.
Water always wins. Especially when it comes all at once.
I've seen it there.
Any other questions or concerns or a motion on item number 6?
This is Greg. I'll make a comment. I'm okay with changing the zone and letting the landowner should be able to develop it as long as we can be sure that water is taken care of in the next step. So if that's where that needs to be taken care of, and we can be assured at that time that we can manage the water on this site, then I'm okay with it. We just need to be assured that we'll be able to manage the water that is there. Because every time it rains, you drive by this does have a pond on it.
Very good. Thank you, Greg. With that said, I'll entertain a motion if somebody's ready to make one.
Did you give us an assurance, Wes? I wasn't sure I heard that.
I guess we won't approve the preliminary plat if we don't have assurance at that point, right?
That's kind of what we felt like that was what,
Okay.
With the preliminary plat, like we did with Webb Hill,
okay.
we required a full study to come in, so we're all on the same.
And the zone change is for RE 12.5, which still allows for agriculture and animals. So.
Okay.
Wes, I didn't hear your response there. Could you say that again in the mic? Sorry, not being there. Just curious.
So what was the question again? Did you ask me?
Did we? I said, did we have assurance?
Yeah,
You said-
she asked about assurance. I said, yeah, well, we'll have to have on when
Yes.
it's preliminary plat.
So we do the assurance through the preliminary plat, kind of like we did with Webb Hill, where we had them design all those detention basins and go through the full drainage study. We'll do the same thing on this one and have them submit the full drainage study with the preliminary plat so that they're tied together, so that we know and we're comfortable that they're looking at the drainage and addressing it. Because even with this pipe here, when this is pipe, this is still, as you know, the low spot, and that's where the drainage is all coming. So yeah, correct.
Did you get that, Greg?
Yes, thank you. So knowing that, I'll move with the motion. I'll make a motion that we change the zone from A1 agriculture to RE 12.5 on approximately 7.09 acres located at the corner of River Road and 2800 South.
Second.
So we have a motion by Greg and a second by Brian. This is a ordinance, so it requires a roll call. Correct? Yes. Does require a roll call. So, all in favor, starting with Vardell.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Greg. Motion passes unanimously.
And we are ready to go back to item 6, if that's okay.
Okay.
Perfect. 5, right?
5, yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
so let's go back to item 5.
All right. Checked on it. The only development agreement in place is regarding landscaping and trails. So Mr. Willis is right. We just can make the changes by changing the ordinance for the PD that applies to the ledges.
Perfect. So the development, just to reiterate that, the development agreement then does not apply to what we're doing here. So
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Does that make sense? By the way, thank you, Vardell, for bringing up those questions, because obviously there's some confusion, and appreciate that. So, does that make sense?
Makes sense to me now, and I'm happy to hear that that's in fact the case, because it will uncomplicate a lot of us going forward.
Yeah.
So if you're ready, I'll try the motion again.
Let's go for it.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve a ordinance change, a zone change amendment to the ledges at St. George PD on 12.5 acres located at approximately 1550 west, 5150 north.
A second.
We have a motion by Vardell, a second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion? This is also an ordinance, so those in favor, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for getting that right. Back to 7. Got everybody here tonight. Dan, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Great.
All right. One of these is mine, pretty sure. Here it is. Okay. This number 7 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Snow Canyon Commercial Plan Development Zone to add grocery store to the approved use list and review concept plans for a proposed grocery store on approximately 4.75 acres, generally located on the southwest corner of Snow Canyon Parkway and 2000 North. The project is to be known as Snow Canyon Commercial Center. This is the property. You can see it outlined in blue. It is zoned PDC. That rezone took place in December of 2018, so just a little over a couple of years ago. At that time, let me show you the general plan. It's commercial, so it complies with the zoning complies with the general plan. At the time of the rezone, a use list was approved. And there are several uses in here that may have or probably could have fit the bill for a grocery store, but just to be so it's abundantly clear, the applicant is proposing to add the use grocery store. You can see that outlined in blue here to that use list, so that so that it's just clear that the grocery store is an approved use. Then this is a look at the proposed grocery store. I'm gonna get rid of that. You can see 2000 North here on the north side of the property, and then Snow Canyon Parkway borders it to the east. They're proposing an access here off of Snow Canyon Parkway that would likely be just a right in and a right out, and then a full access on 2000 North. They're not proposing to alter the parking requirements at all. They are meeting the parking ordinance and the parking requirements. They've provided 196 stalls on the site, and they're parking it at over 1 to 250 square feet. So 1 stall for every 250 square feet. Again, grocery store, all the dry vials meet ordinance, etc. One of the things that, and I'll go over some of the things that came out of the Planning Commission meeting here in just a second, but one of those things was the look of Snow Canyon Parkway. The city's really put a lot of time, effort, and money into that road and the landscaping, et cetera. So one of the big concerns from the residents in the area was that the landscaping be equal to that along Snow Canyon Parkway. So the applicant has revised their drawing. This is a little different than what the Planning Commission saw. It's a little bit more in depth. They also provided a note saying that they would meet or they would match the rock type, the vegetation, trees, etc., that are being provided along Snow Canyon Parkway. So they're trying to assure the City Council and the residents that will blend in with the Parkway. So that's a look at the site itself. The building would be just over 40,000 square feet. They are proposing a retail pad out along Snow Canyon Parkway. That is not being proposed at this time. It's kind of a placeholder. They would have to come back for a PD amendment later when they're ready to build that, if this is approved. This is a look at the building. You can see mainly CMU, though there is some brick and some accent materials, kind of wood accent materials up along the front of the building. And the front, I should add, is that north elevation, so the building would face towards the north. So you get a lot of exposure on the east elevation, which is this one, and that north elevation as you're driving by on Snow Canyon Parkway or 2000 North. And again, there's some issues with that a lot of the residents brought up, and I'll go over that here in just a second. And again, just to look at the materials and the colors. Lighting was one of those issues. In fact, let me just go over the issues, shall I? Snow Canyon Boulevard landscaping, again, that was one of the issues that was brought up. I kind of covered that. Architecture of the building is plain. We heard that several times from the residents during the hearing. And so we've asked the applicant to address that. And I know that the applicant is here, by the way, and would probably like a chance to address you if that's possible. If approved, there should be roof treatment to screen equipment and make it blend in, so they're not looking down on that white membrane. Again, some discussions I've had with the applicant, they are planning to address that. Delivery trucks may idle and create a nuisance, particularly during the middle of the night. The proposed grocery store will create traffic problems, so that's one that we hear quite a bit, is what kind of traffic is this going to bring, particularly to kids that walk to and from school. There was a sense that maybe the store wasn't necessary, and then finally lighting could be an issue, and that's what we're looking at here on your screen right now. Is a lighting plan. And this lighting plan would meet the ordinance. One thing that you could do if you're concerned about the lighting is ask them to reduce the height of the light poles. They would have to redo this, because then that would adjust the lighting on the site. But that's something that if you're concerned with lighting, that you could do as well. And then signage. This shows 18 feet. They're really only allowed to ask up to 15, so this would need to be modified. Again, we would recommend a condition of approval if you do go down that road of approval, that be a maximum of 15 feet so that it meets the code. I believe that concludes. The Planning Commission ultimately recommended approval. There were comments that all comments by the various departments will need to be addressed, and there were some. There's a power line that runs through there, so we'll need to make sure that the building is set back properly from that. We've looked at that, and it does appear to meet that. And that the 4-inch irrigation main line that runs along the west side of the site is maintained, and it does appear that it will meet that as well. So that's the request. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those.
So the primary entrance is off 2000. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be the full motion. Yeah.
And so, but there was also an access point onto Snow Canyon Parkway.
Yeah, I'll get back to that. Yeah, we can look at that. Yes, and I believe that would be probably a right-in, right-out. I'm getting 2 nods right there. Yes.
Yeah. It'd be like playing Frogger if it wasn't, I'm afraid.
Dan, on that, on 2000, so if you're coming, let's see, which way's north? 2000 is north,
That
right?
way, yeah.
It's a little twisted right there.
Let's see if that's there.
Okay,
Now
so
north is up.
if you're on 2000, is there a center lane there for people turning in left?
I don't recall there being one there. Do you, Wes? No, there is not on
Okay.
2000.
There's width for it? Because to me, as I'm looking at this, to keep it safe right there, both entrances look like they should be right in, right out to me, so that you don't end up with a backup going, a left turn back up.
So what was your question again?
So if someone's coming, if they turn off Snow Canyon Parkway left and they want to turn left in, then cars back up behind them waiting. There's cars back up there a lot. If you've ever been, certain times a day, you get a major backup down 2000 North, like people waiting to turn right onto Snow Canyon Parkway. Are we anticipating a light there?
Yes.
Okay, so that was one of my questions. Sorry. I thought we were.
And just to help the right turn movements, the city's looking at doing what's called a slip lane right there, because it is a dominant movement there to allow for cars just to turn directly on without having to wait to turn onto Snow Canyon Parkway.
Right.
There is a center turn lane right there.
There is one. Okay.
There is all the way down there?
So if you do that slip lane though, I've been in those before. So you're trying to accelerate and get in, and then there's a right turn right past that. That's a little sketchy.
The intention is that it'll extend all the way over to Dixie Downs. So
Okay.
it'll give you room as you get past that entrance, because that's a good comment and a good point, that you are starting to see movements, like that. But it'll extend right through here and then allow people to then merge onto that lane, because you drop the lane when you get to Dixie Downs.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, while we're on the topic of 2000 North, this is Greg jumping in. Was there talk of a roundabout at that intersection at some point? Is that where the talk was? It was 2000 North?
Yeah, that's correct. We actually had the design. We looked at the estimate. Sean and I went the rounds on this thing, no pun intended. The estimate on that roundabout came in around $1.6 million. And so as we looked at it, we actually decided to pull back from that and go back to the traffic signal, which actually in the future with a lot of traffic, that runs the intersection a little bit better, but it saved us quite a bit of money by going back to the traffic signal.
It looks like, we'll have a lot of traffic signals in succession right there. That's a concern that I have as we go to that. I mean, is traffic flow better on a roundabout, just to have the discussion?
Yes and no. It depends on if the legs of the intersection on all four legs or however many you have if they're balanced. And if they're not balanced, then a roundabout actually suffers trying to get some of that traffic through there on those side legs that don't have very much traffic. With the proximity of the two traffic signals, we will be able to coordinate those and make sure that you don't have to stop at one and then stop at the other one. You'll just, if you hit a red light, or not hit one, but if you come to a red light, then you're only going I don't want to say hit now. You're only going to get one red light rather than two.
I see. Great.
Other questions and concerns?
I have a couple.
Good.
Let's see. So lighting. I think that it would be of concern that the lights stay on all night.
Okay.
In that proximity to the neighborhood. Is that something that we can or have required in the past, that like the lighting turns off, and have they given us hours of operation? And also, I guess in addition to that would be delivery hours. You know, can we add a requirement that delivery trucks are only there from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever would make sense?
I know that there are ways that they can program their lighting to go off at certain times. As far as hours of operation, I know the applicant's here. He could probably address that along with their delivery hours.
Okay.
But if you did want to see those go off at a certain time, as soon as it's, they close down for the night or an hour after or whatever, then yeah, I would suggest that be included in your motion.
Okay.
Yeah, generally on a retail, that type of a location or that type of a business, they'll have 4 lights on that one light pole, and they may be set by a sensor that turns them all on at dusk, and then at the predetermined time, 3 of the 4 go out, but one stays on just as for security, if nothing else.
Which might be okay if they're set low enough on the poles that they're not a visual obstruction.
I think they have the ability also to put those shields to direct the light as well, that keeps, if it's low enough, maybe it does keep it out of somebody's backyard as well.
And they are required that everything's facing down and shielded per ordinance.
And we've had some of those discussions before on lighting, and as you turn them off, then you take a step to the next thing, which was Bardell's talking about the security. You don't really want to create a dark space right against the wall along that residential either very, very badly. So it's kind of a catch-22, but you're right. That's where there's homes right there. That's a tough one. Would you guys be all right if let's maybe get the applicant up here if they're here and would like to come up and maybe address some of the concerns that they've heard, and we'll go from there. Maybe have some questions for the applicant.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. My name is Neil Walter, and I'm the applicant. We've been working on this site and trying to, I think, with a high level of sensitivity, put together a plan that would be feasible and also be a positive reflection on Snow Canyon Parkway and the city. A couple of things that I think are worth mentioning here. The first one is that we are highly sensitive about the landscaping, and we did resubmit a new landscaping plan after the Planning Commission meeting. The second one is we've been working with Jay Sandberg here at the city for actually quite a number of months, going back to the old roundabout designs, which were earlier last year. I don't remember if that was all the way back in the spring, but it was substantially earlier in 2020, in trying to help facilitate what we know is a concerning traffic issue at 2000 North. We know that you're worried about that, and safety is an issue in this area. There's a couple of things that I think of mention on traffic. First of all, there is, if you look at this particular site plan, you can see, in fact, I'm going to actually move. How do I go to the actual site plan, not the landscape plan? If you wouldn't mind. Thank you. You'll see that there's this nub that pushes all the traffic out into the intersection. There's also, this is the current parcel boundary here. I don't know if you can see these lines on the north. So the current parcel, the current 2000 North roadway actually is on top of a portion of this parcel. We've been working with the city to essentially dedicate all of that back to the city in a trade so that you can get the slip lane in, we can get the signal in, and we can really eliminate a lot of the pressure. I'm on this 2000 North almost every day making that right-hand turn, and I think this will be substantially helpful. I think one other thing is in previous years, back in, it would have been prior to the 2018 zone change, there was concern about how the access for this site would work. And I think I'll just note that there is an easement here on this right in, right out. These curb cuts are already in and have been in for I think as much as a decade. These curb cuts here, there's an easement that will follow these property boundaries and provide access out onto Dixie Drive, which as this project is fully developed, provide additional relief for this intersection and for this parcel. So really what we're looking at is 2000 North here. We're doing the best we can to get aligned with your access to your park. Right in, right out only on Snow Canyon Parkway. There will be access onto Dixie Drive via this easement. And then we're doing everything we can to cooperate with the city in resolving the issues here at 2000 North and Snow Canyon Parkway. So those have been, I think we've probably spent 6 or 7 months working with the city trying to work through the best design and the best outcome because ultimately we realize if you create too big of a traffic issue, then you're actually going to hurt the store, not just the traffic and the safety in the area. So we're very much on the same page there. On the elevations, we've gone through a number of revisions. We're highly sensitive about that. And we appreciate the feedback that we've had working with staff and others trying to work through those elevations. As it relates to the sign, I think that it didn't get included in this packet, but we did submit a revised sign that was at the 14.5-foot recommendation of the Planning Commission. For some reason it didn't end up here, but that has been revised and we agreed to that with the Planning Commission. I think a couple of other things that would be helpful just to be aware of. There's been some question about whether this is actually needed, this store is actually needed. I'll just note that if you go west on 2000 North, you'll find the Harmons in Santa Clara. And if you go south on Dixie Drive, then you'll run into the Lynn's. Both the Harmons and the Lynn's are associated stores. Lynn's is owned by Associated and Harmons is, or I think their #1 affiliated store. This store will also be Associated affiliated, and in fact there is a representative from Associated Foods on the call and is available to answer any questions. But they feel very strongly after looking at the market study that this store will, there's plenty of demand in this area and they're actually very excited and committed to support not just the development of this store but the ongoing operations. And they're here on the call if you have any questions about either the demand or those types of operations. A couple of other questions that Dan mentioned as far as store hours. We're proposing that the store hours be 7 to 11, and we're sensitive about any of the city's noise ordinance for deliveries and et cetera, and we've already had multiple discussions about making sure that we're in compliance with regard to that. I think the last item that Dan mentioned that I wanted to address was just the lighting. Our goal was to make sure that we have a sensitive lighting plan. All the lighting is directional, it's facing down. It is compliant with the ordinance at 30 feet. We discussed lowering them to 20 feet, but in order to get illumination across the entire site, it requires that you add light poles. The site is going to be set, if you see this site, it actually slopes towards the west, and so it'll be set down a little bit below Snow Canyon Parkway. So as you're traveling Snow Canyon Parkway, you're already going to have this site a little bit lower than what you would normally expect, which we think will help significantly both with the homes on the Castle Rock and Lakota Ridge neighborhoods and also the traffic that's on Snow Canyon Parkway as they're passing the property. We think that those we know that there's sensitivity about having a large imposing building and lighting poles and all of those things. And so our thought was we would prefer to leave the lighting at 30 feet, the light poles at 30 feet, only because if we lower them, we're going to have to add more poles, and that'll actually, in a different context, that'll create more lights on the site. But we're open to considering the council's recommendation on those issues. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a few minutes to present some of the feedback as we've gone along our way. And I just want to note that we've had actually what I think has been a really great working relationship with the city trying to get to this point tonight.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With your trucks, delivery truck semis and stuff, what is the access in and out?
So we've provided a delivery plan to the city that actually shows how they would come in and out. The the scenario that we're proposing is having them come off of 2000 North. There is you can see on the back of the property, there is a pop out here. This is screened. If you look in the architectural renderings, you'll see that this is screened. This is the loading dock, so it's actually, we've tried to make it as visually appealing as possible here, and then they'll be able to exit onto Snow Canyon Parkway. But as far as the traffic pattern, we're comfortable just making sure that we have a safe traffic pattern, and we have submitted a proposal to the city with that for review. Thank you for the question.
Neil, I have a few questions. The nighttime delivery, is that something that they can commit to, is no nighttime delivery? I've been around those grocery stores, any grocery store at night, and they generally leave the trucks running because they're usually refrigerated. It's noisy. It would be really challenging to live by one of those spaces and hear that at night. So I think that's something that could really go a long way for the neighbors, is to know that there's not going to be any nighttime delivery.
So thank you for the question. We recognize that that is a concern. We've tried to do a couple of things that I think will help out significantly. Ultimately, we're hopeful that, particularly as we're looking at the ordinance and we're looking at the delivery schedules, that we're not asking them to make a delivery that doesn't fit within the other scheduled deliveries in the Lynn's, Harmon's, the Harmon's across town, the Lynn's, the Lynn's on the other side of town. We're hoping that we can coordinate all of those deliveries. We think there's tremendous value. And so one of the things that we have done is, you'll notice, particularly because of the power line easement, there's a very substantial setback. There's also a building. This is actually the building that is screening all of that sound, and then there's also a screen here. And so it would be our preference to comply with the ordinance as it is and not make a exception to the ordinance for that. That would be our preference, just because it is a significant logistical issue to coordinate among all of the associated stores in the area, and to have something that is an exception relative to the others would be preferable for us not to have to do. And we've tried to, again, accommodate that in the site plan, but we also recognize it's a concern for the neighboring homeowners.
Along the east elevation, I think that I can't speak for everyone, but I think, what I'm hearing from the neighbors and what makes sense to me is that this is low visual impact because of what we've done with Snow Canyon Parkway and all of the effort that we've put into having it be kind of a low visual impact in the sense of the desert being highlighted. And it seems like that east elevation is lacking as far as, just looking more like a big box. And, could they add more of the wood and brick elements, or is it wood and stone elements that are on the north elevation? Since I think that technically that east elevation is what will be most visible from the parkway.
So that's a great question also. Thank you for asking that. What we've tried to do here is, particularly on the southern portion of the building, we've got multiple materials that are demonstrated on the materials board, including the wood and the glass, both to create light inside the store and to create visual appeal on this side. Part of the reason why this is designed the way that it is here is because if you look at that site plan, we actually think that small retail building will provide some contrast and a little bit of depth as people are traveling that corridor. And that building on the site plan is designed to sit right in front of those panels. So we were sensitive and concerned about that, and so you're seeing the part of the store that is most visible from the parkway. have some enhanced architectural elements and really trying to tie in what you're seeing on the front elevations, on the north elevations. And so those are some of the comments. We're also, again, we recognize that this is an important corridor for the city. We have a lot of visitors to our community. We have some very nice developments in this area, and we're sensitive about that, and we've tried as we've gone along to make this as visually appealing as possible. We're open to recommendations, but that's the thought process that's led us to this elevation that you're seeing tonight.
Okay. And I just have one more question. The roof treatment, I didn't know if you addressed that with, oh, let me ask also, did you say store hours 7 to 11?
7 to 11, which I think is pretty similar to most of the stores in the area.
Yeah. The roof treatment, screening the roof treatment?
So there's yeah,
using the treatment to screen the roof.
So two things here. The first one is that in terms of the roof color, we're proposing to look at having a tan or other earth tone roof color that would allow us to have something that was much less impactful. We're also looking at, I think one of the things that we've considered and we've discussed, from Snow Canyon Parkway, I don't think that you'll be able to see onto the roof. I know that the property owners who are up on, for example, Castle Rock will be looking down. One of the things that we've tried to consider is, depending on how high you are up, you're not actually parallel to the roof treatment, and so we're open to suggestions, and we're sensitive about it, but we're also recognizing that some of those roof treatments might not actually have as much impact in screening the roof, and so we're trying to really focus on the roof colors and the way that visual impact might look. So we haven't proposed in any of the work that's been submitted to the city actual screens, partly because we're trying to figure out from Snow Canyon Parkway, you're not going to see them. From the neighbors, as you're looking down, you're going to be looking down, not horizontal at those screens, and so that's why you haven't seen that. But we have been really sensitive about the roof color and its impact.
Neil, while you're on that page, just so it's clear, which of those elevations, and I can't see the directions, but which of those faces Snow Canyon Parkway?
This one does here on the very bottom. It's referred to as the east elevation, and I'm circling my mouse.
Gotcha.
So this would be the southern end of the building. This would be the northern end of the building. And the pad that we haven't submitted a proposal for, but that pad sits right here.
Okay, which would be a standalone retail pad.
It'd be a freestanding retail pad that we will be back for at some later date.
Okay. Are there other questions for Neil? Do you guys have concerns? Do you have any, Greg?
Just so I guess I'll make a comment and then maybe I have a question or two. So Snow Canyon Parkway, doing developments along Snow Canyon Parkway, especially anything commercial related, has been, it's been something that's been heavily scrutinized through the history of St. George, everything that's been coming through there. And that's just because of, I think, the way that the parkway was intended to be, taking everybody to our second most visited site in Washington County, which is Tuacahn, getting people to Snow Canyon. It's always meant to be somewhere that is, visually pleasing as you drive along and kind of something that highlights our community. So that's why it's been scrutinized, and that's why this is being scrutinized. So I'm in favor of neighborhood commercial, and this is zoned in a commercial manner. And so we definitely need to expect something commercial coming on this site. The one thing that I want to make sure that we really look at is that we do preserve our corridor and that Snow Canyon Parkway we have up to this point. And I think we need to be, looking at that as we do it. So, the main things that concern me with this is traffic flow. So if that slip lane and that light work, and that's the solution, then okay, if that's where we should be. If a roundabout is better there, and maybe it costs a little bit more for the city, I think that's something we should still have in consideration if that's the better solution. So that's a comment on that. Lighting, if there is a solution to bring lighting down from the 40 feet, that's probably something I'd want us to consider and look at on this parcel, because I think that makes a big difference, especially to the homeowners on the east side, because I think if you're sitting up really high there, then it's just going to line up with back doors of what they have. So maybe we should look at that. And then the aesthetics. And so those are just my comments on it. I'm for the commercial development here. I just want to make sure that because we have scrutinized this, let's continue to make sure that this parkway does remain somewhere, that is a highlight of our community. So that's just a comment I have.
Very good. Excellent comments.
Sorry, I have one more question. Yeah. Neil, when you put the additional retail pad, will its back be to Snow Canyon Parkway?
So you see this actually pretty commonly with small buildings like this. The back of the building technically will be to Snow Canyon Parkway because you don't want to try and essentially put that parking field in front of it. In fact, we're seeing places like at Sun River where they intentionally turned a convenience store around so that you can create a better visual impact versus just a parking field in front. And so that's the plan. But again, that was just a placeholder at this point.
I guess I just bring
and
that
by
up
the way,
because
if you do something like that, right, you're going to have windows and some nice treatment on that side. Right. We recognize that just because that's the back of the building doesn't mean that it's the back of the building from what people see. That will be the front of the building as people are most commonly familiar with it.
That makes sense. Perfect. Any other questions for Neil while we have him up here? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to address questions. And again, we appreciate your time this evening.
Perfect. Okay, council. Back to you. Go ahead, Greg.
I want to be... So obviously we've got a lot of letters and comments from the neighbors just with concerns in this area. And so I want to be sensitive to the concerns there. Can we talk to staff? Staff, what do you think about lighting? What things can we do to help address that? Do you think we should do more on that? Do we feel like the aesthetics of the building are in line with what should go there? I mean, one thing I want to make mention of is, so this is a PD zone, PDC, a commercial zone. We are going to have commercial there. So we need to plan on that. And any developer is allowed to put a certain amount of square footage on that site. So if it's not this grocery store, then we can expect to have the same amount of square footage of another type of commercial there. So commercial will be coming to the area. That's just something I wanted to make mention is, I think a grocery store could work great. We just need to make sure that it fits the community well. And so those are the things I'd like to address in this. Maybe let's just go back to my initial questions. So staff, what do you think about lighting? Is there anything we should do additional to, make it be in compliance with the Snow Canyon Parkway area and the residents?
Yeah, so there are some things that are already built into the ordinance that will address some of that stuff. Things like it being the lights being down facing, shielded, those kinds of things. The height, 30 feet. It's really a comfort level for you. If you feel like 20 feet's gonna serve the residents a little better, then that's under your purview. You can certainly reduce those lights, and that'd be okay. But the applicant is correct that when you do that, they are going to probably add more light poles in order to get that same kind of distribution.
But Dan, if we look at lumens, even if they add more, we can still control the lumens as long as it's, if we put it at 20 feet and we say, we give a foot candle restriction, that foot candle restriction can still be.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, that's one of the things that's built into the code is you can't go over 10-foot candles on the site, except under canopies. There's no canopies here, so 10 is what you're restricted to, and you can't go over a foot candle at the border, so at the property line. So there are a couple of those things that are built into the code as well. So really, it boils down to your comfort level as to the height of the poles. and what you'd like to see as far as that goes. As far as the elevations go, they have done, the applicant's right, they have done some things to that elevation or to that side. The windows, more stucco. If you compare the south side to the east side, now the south side, you're still going to see the south side as you're coming north up on the Snow Canyon Parkway. So that may be something you want to address. That's a little tougher because you do have those bays where the delivery trucks will go into, and so they've done what they can to screen that. That's going to be a little harder to spruce up, in my opinion. But they may be able to do some of those same things with some windows and things like that. I think there's always something you could do more. You could always bump up, the horizontal, give some horizontal relief along that roof line, things like that. There are things to do. That said, it's a grocery store, and so I think their options are slightly limited. Again, in my opinion, not as an architect, but just having seen many of these buildings. So
I think they have a beautiful building, but I do think we need to bring the lights down to 20. Yeah. And, like Dan, you've had your inbox full of letters, and we have too, and I think the citizens there deserve all we can give them. I know they don't want that there, and they tell us that they have grocery stores within a mile and a half of their homes, but this also moves to where somebody else will have a grocery store closer to them as well. So I think it helps a lot of people here. And like Greg said, we're going to it's commercial, and I think they have a beautiful building there. They've done very well to this far. I think we can just help a little bit more with that, Neil, and I appreciate it.
John, what's our city noise ordinance? Is it 10 p.m.?
Yes, and 3 complaints. So you have to have three people complain, and that will trigger the nuisance ordinance for noise.
Okay.
A couple things. We can look at lighting. We did talk about the height. We can look at the lumens right now, or the foot candles. Right now, our ordinance is 10. This is a PD. The applicant did mention they would agree to even reducing that down over the entire site, and so that would also help, along with dropping the height of the poles. Dan brought up a few things. When you look at this, when I look at this, these two seem to be some of the more plain elevations, and I'm wondering if we change some of the materials, have some pop out. The roof seems really plain. Maybe some horizontal and some vertical relief, and because they are establishing, they do have some of these columns. Maybe these columns need to go up higher and just really provide much more of a decorative look on this plain wall here and also here. I think would really help the look of this building. Even if they took, if you look here, they have this little step up and then they have a larger step up. They could duplicate that right here.
Yeah.
And I think that would also help break up that plain wall that they're proposing, especially along Snow Canyon Parkway. They are proposing that pad out front, but we don't know when that'll be approved. We don't know if it'll be built. They're showing it conceptually, but we haven't seen any plans on that. There's kind of a conceptual layout. And so I think maybe duplicating this little feature here at this location, I think would probably be beneficial and would probably help break the plane of that wall.
That could probably indirectly screen some of the HVAC units or whatever else is on the roof as well.
That's correct. They are right. It's when you're up higher, it's hard to shield that roof. Your wall would have to be really tall. But I think looking at the color of that roof, painting it kind of a natural brown color, along with whatever mechanical equipment up there, I think would help camouflage that from those people looking down on this site.
So you don't think they need the roof screens? Or
I
you
think the
do?
roof. I think the roof screens will help from
Yeah.
Snow Canyon Parkway.
Okay.
But when you're looking down from say
Sure.
like Castle Rock, you'll still
Yeah.
you'll look over those screens.
Sure, I understand that, but still, it would be beneficial.
It would be beneficial.
Okay.
I think in addition to that, look at the color of the roof and paint whatever mechanical you can that natural color
Yeah.
instead of the bright white that we often see.
I agree with you on that east elevation.
And the
Greg?
south, it's
Yeah.
so plain, yeah.
Yeah, regardless.
Council, could I raise another issue, if that's okay?
Why not?
Let's do it. So I do want to note this is not a public hearing, but we did receive comments about the school. There is an elementary school across the street, just a little bit down Coral Cliffs. I think it's worth noting that Coral Cliffs no longer operates entirely as an elementary school. The school district did change the function of that, though my understanding is they have at least one class per grade, but it's like 150 students maybe. So much smaller student population than what we normally see in a school. But I thought since we had our police chief here, and I did note that we saw some comments in the chat, even though we're not really monitoring that, but I did see some comments asking about the school. I wonder if we could just have our police chief take a minute and give us his assessment of the safety of the school and pedestrian traffic, what he thinks.
Chief.
Good afternoon. Good evening. So just my thoughts on this, being across the street, I would suspect it might be a minimal amount of students that would probably end up near or in front of that business. Most students would probably trickle out through those residential areas. Obviously, there probably would be an increase in traffic along that road during the daytime and during the school hours. Hopefully it would be minimal, although we have seen some other incidents of pedestrian and automobile crashes throughout the city. It could happen, but I would hope it would be fairly minimal given the population of the students, the location of the school itself, and then also where a lot of the residences are located in relation to the school, or I'm sorry, to the business.
Thank you, Chief. If you're...
Can I make a comment quickly?
Absolutely.
In regards to the school, Jimmy, you may be the only one that was on the council at the time, but remember all of the feedback we got when the commercial was all going in across the street from Bloomington Hills Elementary and right there by the middle school and the high school, and the traffic concerns and concerns about children being hit because now there would be convenience stores and all kinds of different eating establishments across the street. And since those commercial properties have gone up, there has not been one incident that we've had, especially with the elementary kids trying to run over to those stores. So that's just something to keep in mind. And also, there's always a crosswalk just down from those businesses as well. So I just wanted to remind everyone of that.
Thank you. Excellent comment.
I have quite a few things that I'd like to see happen with this. So I don't know I'll list them off, and I don't know if if we're comfortable with it being we pass it expecting these things to happen, or if it's table it and bring it back because there's quite a few changes, but maybe I list them off for you guys and see what your feedback is on it. I think that we need the lighting lowered. It needs to be fully shielded. It needs to be at 20 feet and probably half the normal lumens, the 10, probably down to 5. I need to study that a little bit more though and see what would be the best as far as lumens goes. So basically reducing the height of the light poles. I'm super concerned about the nighttime delivery. I understand, Mr. Walter. I totally understand the complexity of that with associated foods, but I also think that with the proximity to the neighborhood, that we might want to look at a time schedule where there aren't, noisy trucks coming in at the back of houses. I'd like to see the exterior facade improved, the decorative horizontal and vertical reliefs that we talked about so that it's really attractive from all four sides. They've already agreed to match the landscape of Snow Canyon Parkway, so that's good. The roof treatment, I want us to make sure that it's screened and that earth tones are used as much as possible. Then also, they've already addressed the signage at 14.5 feet, so that's good. The traffic light being installed in the slip lane is just a note so that people are not, so they understand that that's happening. I'm curious about the store hours with that proximity. I'm okay with 7 a.m., but I'm thinking that 10 p.m. makes more sense instead of 11 p.m. And as far as going forward, I'd like to see, I'm worried about the back of that second business being on to the Parkway. We've had a lot of those types of things where we say it will look decorative, but it always still looks like the back of a business, and the garbage is still back there. And so I don't know. I'd like for us to have more discussion on that. And if you guys are in agreement, I'd like to have the business, not the back of the business face the Parkway. So it's a lot. And I agree with all of you. I mean, it's going to be commercial. I think that we can zone in on this and make it great, and it can be a great addition to the neighborhood, but I do think it needs to be as low impact as possible. It needs to feel like a neighborhood store and not just any regular grocery store, in my opinion.
We also need to understand we have the softball complex right across the street, which runs till 10:30, 4 or 5 nights a week playing softball leagues, and I think their lighting and their is probably more than what you're going to get from this store. So that has, in my eyes, I think this store is going to have a lot less lighting than you'll get from the softball complex, and I think that's really kind of, their hours are going to match with what's going on over there right next door. So I don't know that that's going to be an issue either, Danielle.
I guess, in my opinion, I would still hold that, this is backing up onto these neighbors, and there's another neighborhood right above that's looking down onto it. And so, I guess just because we have one impact, in my mind, I don't think that we should add additional impact if we don't have to. If we can mitigate it, which I think we can mitigate it, is what I'm saying. So I think we can work this out. I think it can look more attractive. I think the lighting can be low impact. I think we can mitigate the sound. And in my opinion, I'm just thinking that we should do as much as we possibly can to mitigate this and make it feel like a neighborhood store. And so
I think you identified enough different things there that it may be worth considering tabling the motion. Hopefully it's not significant enough, though, that it's got to come all the way back through the process. I don't think the Planning Commission should have to sit and review this again. I was not on the Planning Commission when this was originally brought forth, but I zoomed in on that meeting, and one of the comments I did hear is that if you look at the approved list, almost every one of those things are found in a grocery store.
Yeah.
So really the discussion is adding grocery store to the approved list.
Right.
So I thought that was a consideration also, that they're really not doing anything necessarily that's not already approved. Mm-hmm. So really I think in my mind, we're talking about the aesthetics of the
yeah.
building.
I agree. Adam, what's your recommendation? With that many changes or additions or mitigations, Because I'm fine putting forth a motion that includes all of those mitigating factors.
Council, are you, I mean, Danielle's talked about those issues. If you agree with all those, I guess if you agree with all those, then that's what I would say. Just let's make you can make a motion regardless, but I guess that's the discussion. Are we in agreement on all those? Do we need to talk about those? Or staff, John, is there something, some of those already addressed in the motion as far as the conceptual plan? I know they've submitted a different landscaping plan already, so I know some of that's being addressed, but.
Yeah, some of it's being addressed, and I think some of it you can put in motion. The one that we would need real specific direction on would be any changes to that elevation. And so if you want this kind of front feature duplicated, we can easily make sure that's done at site plan. And so if you give us the real direct direction and part of your motion, then we can verify it. If it's not, then it may be beneficial to come back, okay. I would say.
And that was my thought as well. I think through the site plan process, we could capture just about all of that. And it certainly is within the council's prerogative as a PDC to put these types of conditions on the development. That is part of our process. But I do think that Councilmember Hughes asked a good question. You know, is there agreement with the changes that have been mentioned so far?
Let me, I'll chime in. So let me see, I think as a council, from what I'm hearing, I think we all think that a grocery store can work on this site. What we're trying to make sure is that it's aesthetically pleasing for the Snow Canyon Parkway, so it fits with those aesthetics, because we think that's important for our community. Would the rest of the council agree on that statement?
Yes, I would agree.
That was some nodding and yes, yeah. Greg.
Can you see us?
Okay, good. I couldn't see. Okay, so yeah, we're for the project. We want to make sure that it's aesthetically it fits, because that's what we've done in that, and I think we should continue with that. So I would agree. I'll just make my statement just so we can all get on the same page. I would agree that on that east-facing elevation, we should do something more like what they've done on the north side. I think we should take a look at the lighting. I agree with what Danielle said, is just because we did it somewhere else doesn't mean we need to do it here with something that's right on the parkway. So I'd like us to look at it and make sure we get the right thing there. One of the things that also, just to throw this in, is a lot of the letters and calls that I've received is traffic concerns. So if we think that the slip lane and the light there is the best choice for a grocery store, then let's go with that. If we think that a roundabout would handle it better, then I would be, as a council member, open to spending additional money if we need to make sure that flows. So I'd just like to look at that. And Cameron, you can answer that one. I don't have the answer, but you can tell us. So those are my thoughts on it.
So I would think the elevation question we're probably all in agreement on. We want to see that elevation on at least the east side and probably the south. I guess the only two things that I would be a little concerned out on Danielle's list would be the hours of operation. I want to also make sure the business has an opportunity to be successful. I'm someone who goes to the grocery store late at night.
I'm super geriatric, so I'm in bed by like 5 p.m. except for on city council nights, so yeah, I understand.
So Brian had a great point there, and I know we don't. We're not just piling on, but there are softball things going on there already till 10:30 at night. People aren't out of there till 11. If that store closes at 11, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with removing that from if I make the motion.
So the only other thing was, I don't know how. I agree somewhat on the delivery schedule. I just again, I'm a little bit in agreement with the applicant on how does that look system-wide as they make their deliveries, to say, okay, we have one store that we have to fit into this specific window, and is that going to become costly too costly? And I don't know, maybe the answer is no, and that we can try to keep the hours of delivery at a certain time frame. I don't know what those hours are, but other than that, some stuff with the lighting, I would like to keep the lighting to a minimum. I don't know if the right way is lower poles and more poles, or the shielding and the lumens. I mean, I don't know what that is. If I'm across the street on Castle Rock and I look, is it more obtrusive to me to see a higher pole with shielded lights or more poles?
Well, and part of the problem is driving along Snow Canyon Parkway. At 30 feet, those are all sitting even shielded. So to me, it is less obtrusive at 20 feet because it sits lower so that it's not right at eye level for the driving along Snow Canyon Parkway.
And that may make sense. So I'm just thinking that out loud on that one. That one's not as big of an issue. The delivery hours and the hours of operation, I want to be sensitive to this business to be successful as well. Again, on neighborhood commercial, we've talked a lot about the traffic. There's two concerns here: the traffic flow around the site, but there's also traffic flow system-wide. And I think Brian alluded to this, and Greg as well, talking about he favors neighborhood commercial. This is something we have to look more at going forward to try to cut back on some of our traffic. The trips to Harmon's and the trips to Lynn's, maybe people that live around here won't have to travel as far. It'll reduce traffic system-wide. So to me, that's a good thing, and I think everybody kind of agrees with that. But there is the concern about the traffic flow around the site, and I think Greg has hit on some excellent points there, that let's make sure whatever we do that it works. If it's something we need to look at again on the roundabout, let's do that. So I know there's a lot of issues that we could probably hash out some more by tabling it, but I think we kind of have the gist. It's just a couple of items that we can agree or not agree on, and send it. Staff gets the picture. We can include it in the motion. I think the applicant's getting the message. So it just comes down to let's agree on those things that we want to put in a motion, and let's make a motion. And it's the way I feel. I don't know how.
Maybe a mitigation for the nighttime delivery is if it's going to be a nighttime delivery, they can't leave the truck running, because that's the issue. I mean, more than anything, admittedly, when they drive in and park and stuff, the brakes are loud, but they're loud when they just leave them running for hours, and that can be really, I don't know.
So should we put that as something that we want to see discussed, or how would be the best way to address that? Or just say, do we need to give a specific time? I mean, I agree with the concern. I'm not, and the neighbors should be concerned about that.
This one's hard because on most neighborhood commercial, there just isn't a requirement for nighttime delivery, right? So it just isn't a problem, but that's where grocery stores can be specifically more challenging, is that nighttime delivery. But
I get it. So, any ideas?
Well, I think maybe they could wall that area, which would help mitigate the sound of that. But I'm kind of with Jimmy on this, that you and maybe Neil, you can try to get your hours earlier in the evening or whatever, and try not to do that. But ultimately, there's going to be a truck that comes in and out. But maybe we can wall it in and try to bounce the sound, keep the sound inside the area, but with a wall or something.
I'm just always a little bit nervous when we try to tell a business that it's not our business how to do their business, especially one that's successful in what they do. I think we've pretty well articulated what our concerns and issues are. If the motion included addressing the east elevation and the lights, those are the two issues for me that I think would be most important to see included in the motion.
On the deliveries, I'm just curious. It looks like that the deliveries would be on the back of the store, which would be the east. Is that the east? No, whatever. The Dixie downside. Right?
It's the south side.
South side. So it would not be adjacent to the homes. Is that right? Although sound could carry to those homes that are right along there.
Yes, but there is also a wall between the truck and those homes that they're backing into, which would be a significant barrier.
Well, there's the existing residential wall that's there. But I guess my point.
I'm talking about. May I?
Yeah, go ahead. That's my question, because it seems like as so often is the case, we see the deliveries adjacent to the homes, but this one isn't. It's on the
so I think
other
this
side.
is a good example here. The deliveries are here backing up to this wall with a screen here.
That was actually, I was confused about that. Okay.
So there is a block wall here, but all of those delivery trucks will be required to back here into their loading dock, and there will be all of this building with all of its height and a screen here. By the way, this is where the trash is, and it's screened here. This is also screened. So that will be designed to try and mitigate the sound that might come. And I will say that we're sensitive about the noise issue, and we're going to try and do the very best we can to make sure that it's not a concern. We definitely hear the community members in the council, and there was a lot of thought, at least tried to figure out how do you design this store to actually make that work, as opposed to, for example, putting the deliveries on this.
And that's the point I wanted to make, Neil, was that it's not along the Ironwood residences,
Yes.
it's on the other side.
Thank you.
So, well, and while you're up there, I've got to win a bet with the mayor. Do you know how much the Pop-Tarts are going to be?
$7.95.
Oh.
I have no idea how much the Pop-Tarts are going to be.
Neil doesn't buy Pop-Tarts. That would be really expensive Pop-Tarts.
That's right. No, I don't buy. Thank you for clarifying. I do not buy Pop-Tarts.
Okay. There you have it.
I'm ready to make a motion. Oh, you want to make a motion, Brian? I'm ready to make a motion. All right. I will make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Snow Canyon Commercial Plan Development Zone to add grocery store to the approved use list, and that we review the concept plan for the proposed grocery store, and that we have reviewed that concept plan, and that we would like to see, in addition to what is proposed, low impact lighting at 20 feet or below, with the lumens being reviewed by staff so as to create the least amount of impact along Snow Canyon Parkway. That we have an improved exterior facade on the south and the east, and that it duplicates the front entrance feature with the decorative horizontal and vertical relief. That the roof treatment has added screen equipment and is painted in earth tones, and that all of the mechanical equipment that can possibly be painted to earth tones also is, for minimum visual impact. Because it wasn't in our packet, I'll also note that the signage will be reduced to 14.5 feet as indicated by the applicant. And I mentioned the store hours, but we will allow the store hours to remain as 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. We would ask that the applicant do as much as possible to reduce impact from deliveries, the sound that will come from deliveries, and any other impact from deliveries. And I think that's it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Danielle, a second by Brian. Is there any clarification needed on the motion? Does that all make sense to staff? And is that okay? Sound good? Okay, we have a motion. Any more discussion on the motion?
One discussion item that I'll add is just a request for staff, and I don't know if this should be in the motion, but to just look at that intersection on 2000 North and make sure that we have the most efficient one going in there.
Yeah.
And Cameron's already nodding his head that he's going to do that, so he can.
And I would add to that we do our part when we install a traffic light to keep our lighting as low as possible also.
Perfect. Okay, we have a motion. This is an ordinance requiring a roll call. So let's, all in favor of the ordinance, starting with Greg.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh.
Good.
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Neil. Okay, let's see, where are we after all that? 8?
right. Item number 8 is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Red Cliffs Mall plan development commercial zone to modify their sign package and amend the site plan. The application is to be known as Red Cliffs Mall PD Amendment on approximately 39.37 acres located on the southwest intersection of Red Cliffs Drive and Mall Drive. This has a little bit of a history. I think we all know where the mall is. Red Cliffs Drive here on the north and Mall Drive on the east, outlined in blue. Land use, the land use general plan suggests commercial, which is zoning is compliant with that at PDC. This was heard by the Planning Commission. Oh, let me go back. Sorry, got a little ahead of myself. This was heard by the Planning Commission last year, about a year, almost exactly a year ago, actually. The Planning Commission heard this due to COVID hitting and the impact that had. The applicant kind of pressed pause on this and then just recently came back and said that they were ready to roll. I think they wanted to see how things shook out with COVID, et cetera. By the way, the applicant is here tonight, and I'm sure would be happy to address you. So I'll just run through kind of what they're proposing, what their request is, and then we can talk about the Planning Commission as well, what their discussion was. You can see there's some blue areas of blue here on the site. Everything here in white is the mall. This over here was part of the original proposal. That's the Vasa Fitness. That is no longer part of the proposal. So you can kind of ignore that for this request. These blue shapes on here are new pads. So you'll see that there are pads that they're proposing for the future. Now, we're not looking at any of those in specific detail tonight. Just note that they are there. They would have to come back for a PD amendment as they develop, if this is approved. You'll also notice a couple of things on here. These letters, these colored letters, are signs. So they're proposing to modify their sign package. And then the other thing that two other things that they're proposing to do. One over here you'll see, and I'll go into a little more detail on that, is a little plaza. It's about a half acre, and they're proposing some nice things there. And then finally, their final request is to modify their entryway from Red Cliffs Drive. So you can see on here, probably easiest to see it on here. They've got an entry, and if you've been to the mall, you know what I'm talking about. They've got an entry here and an entry here that are kind of awkward, and they're proposing to eliminate those and then modify the site so that it would have this one entry and exit there that would align with the intersection. We had them look at the parking to make sure that the parking on the site would still be in compliance with the changes that they're proposing. They would still meet the parking requirements based on their parking study. So we felt good about that. This is the area that is the plaza. Sorry, plaza doesn't come right to mind. Sorry, but this is the plaza area, and you can see it's on this area right next to Barnes and Noble. I believe H&M is right here. See's Candy is over here. So it's kind of in that general area on the western end of the mall, on the northwestern end of the mall. So getting into a little more details, this is what they originally proposed, and this is actually what the Planning Commission saw last year. They've made a few minor adjustments to it. It wasn't enough that we thought it was significant enough to to run back through the planning commission, but they have made some adjustments to it. And so this is what they're now proposing here. So you can see they still have the couple of lawn areas, lounging areas, places for tables and chairs. Basically a place that you can just go and sit. You can wait for a ride, whatever it is that you want to do. You can go out there and just relax. So that's the proposal. I think they have other plans for that. I'll let the applicant address those if they care to, and if you'd like to hear from them. This is a look at what they've kind of shown us as far as renderings, and you can see again awnings, enhanced landscaping, enhanced lighting, and again lounging areas, signage, that kind of thing. So that's the proposal for that. I'll just kind of run through these and tell me if you want to stop and look at them. Proposal number 2 is to make some modifications to their sign package. So this is probably the one that would have the biggest impact is this sign right here. This is would be on the corner of Mall Drive and Red Cliffs. It is proposed to be 50 feet tall. It would be an electronic message center, and it would be 300 square feet. All those things meet the ordinance, or what they are allowed to ask for in the ordinance. But because it's a PD and they have an existing sign package, they're asking to modify that. So that's the big sign. This is their existing sign, and it's 30 feet tall. They're proposing, what they've told us is that they would like to, if possible, use the exact same structure and just update it. So that's the proposal for that one. So that one would remain, and that's just to the west of the proposed modified intersection. These signs, there's this one, and then there's one that is kind of a mirror image but slightly smaller. They would be on either side of the modified intersection leading onto the property. And that's that other one that's on this other side. And then a series of monument signs. There's three of these that are at each entry outside of this one up here. So over here, then over here on Mall Drive as well, 2 of them. And then 5 signs that are kind of wayfinding signs, or as they call them, vehicular directional signs that would be placed throughout the site, again, mostly on the south side. And then a plaza sign that would go up here. And then mall entry signs, there are 3 of those, I believe, and then 4 of these walls that are up here. These are just short walls, and again, they can explain those a little bit more if you want some more detail on those. And then finally, they have this digital directory. It's interactive. Somebody could go up there, look for all the food outlets in the mall, and that would bring those up. So that is their sign proposal, and then this just shows kind of the difference in heights, and you can kind of get an idea of how tall those would be in relation to each other. Location of the signs. Then this is a look at the site as it is today. And then this is, I took this because I thought you might want to see kind of what that sign would look like. This is the existing sign from the freeway, kind of at eye level, maybe a little higher. So if you can imagine another 20 feet, so that would get you up to 50. This is 30. So it would bring the elevation of that sign itself would remain the same, but the new one that they're proposing would be about 20 feet higher than that. So I just wanted to kind of give you that visual as well. Planning Commission, so it's, like I said, it was about a year ago that they saw this. They had quite a bit of discussion on it. They talked about stacking on the pads. So let me go back to the site plan. There we go. So I talked about stacking on these pads, and those are things that we would, if there is, say, a restaurant or a retail outlet that would have a drive-through, we'd want to make sure that those stacked properly. Those are things that we would look at during the site plan. They talked about the entry point on Mall Drive. These points, this point down here, being, maybe not a little slightly awkward, and so the applicant had talked about looking at that in a little more detail, and they can tell you what they found with that. Design of the buildings, the pads, again, those would have to come back for a PD amendment. And then they talked about at some length about the sign, and actually felt that it was actually a good addition, because that there's just limited visibility of the existing sign. So that was kind of what the Planning Commission discussed, and in the end they suggested a couple of conditions: that all future buildings go through the zone change amendment process, and any significant changes that happened that, from what you're seeing here tonight, would need to come back to you again as well. I think, and then they discussed that the city's participation in the right-of-way, signal, stuff like that, was not guaranteed, but I think that that's been, for the most part, hashed out at this point. If you want to talk about that in any more detail, Wes or Cameron Cameron's still there, can discuss that. Otherwise, they recommended approval of the application.
So the relocation of the ingress and egress is right across from that access under I-15, correct? And is
That's right.
Controlled by a light.
That would, they'd have to put that one arm on the north side, correct, in to control that movement, but yes.
I know we're not talking about it tonight, but for my own curiosity, the two pad sites on the rear of the property, one is Sears, the other's the vacant theater. I'm just curious now, are they thinking about redemising like the Sears building? Because when you call it a pad site, that suggests to me construction.
Right.
And there's something existing there already.
Right. So anything that is modified on that, again, would have to come before you for your approval.
And then parking. That's based on GLA of the mall, not necessarily occupied GLA, correct? So are we still compliant with our parking requirements, even though we're going to dedicate parking stalls to that plaza?
Yeah, from what I could tell from the numbers that they provided to us, it does look like they would be in compliance. And with any subsequent applications, we'll double check all the parking numbers too.
Dan, I have a question about that 50-foot sign. Is there any concern with the eye level, in conflict with I-15? The brightness of it, or is there an issue? Does UDOT worry about that, or have any thing we have to look at?
If it was an off-premise site, it would be governed under, the laws that UDOT provides for those. But this would be an on-premise site, so it's really at your discretion. I don't know. I don't know that it would have any. I wouldn't think it would have any more impact than a billboard would, but
yeah, we're starting to see a lot more of the digital signs, and we can regulate those. All those signs have built-in controls for the brightness, and I think we'll be okay on this one.
Okay.
I'll make a comment on this. This is just a comment. So in America, when you look at commercial real estate, there has been an extreme decline in retail. United States has significantly more retail per capita than any other nation in the world. And so maybe that's something that does need to happen, that we do need to see a decline in it because it's a little out of scope. However, when you look at large shopping complexes like the Red Cliffs Mall, they need to do things to make sure that they stay up to date for what the public is going to retail locations for. One great case study, if anybody wants to look at it, is it's now called University Place, but the University Mall in the Orem and Provo area. You can see the turnaround that they've made at that place, and it's incredible. It's now where once was a declining mall that nobody wanted to go to, and the rents were problems and people were leaving and things like that, is now very vibrant. So I actually really like to see this happening to our Red Cliffs Mall. I think they're forward thinking on it. I think it's something that needs to be done. I absolutely love that they're lining up the underpass with the entrance. I think that definitely needs to happen. So I think this is really good. I'm definitely for it.
Great comments, Greg. Thank you. And I agree.
I agree too. Hey, Greg, did they give them parking reductions?
They did not.
I was curious about that.
Any other questions?
I've got a question for the applicant. And I should go ahead and mention that's probably the only downside of this whole application is the group of people we got to work with over at the mall. But no, they've actually been really great, and we do appreciate the partnership we have. The mall's important to our economy for sure. I wanted to get some clarification, maybe if you guys could speak to the timing of the plaza improvements. I mean, obviously, you're going to want to get the sign going. I think one of the concerns we've had as we've looked at the proposal, we wouldn't want to see the sign go and then be sitting here, 6 months later and see no movement on the plaza. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. Can I
Please.
Yeah.
Good evening, Council. And just for the record, my name's Nate Evans. I'm the president of Satterfield Helm, the managing partner of the mall. In terms of timing, Adam, we have the plan. Tonight is basically our last, what we hope is our last step to kick off development. We are already in negotiations with contractors. Our plans, our construction drawings are completely done. These improvements are committed for this year and before our shopping season really kicks into high gear in November. So it will be this year that this is happening here. So any other questions regarding timing or anything like that? Okay. Any other questions on any of it?
I just have a question
for sure.
About how do you envision human activity? Is it all like we drive in and then we still walk into the mall the way we always have? Or do you envision human movement around the mall as being altered by this?
We think it'll be enhanced by it, absolutely.
I agree, I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look kind of globally at what we have here, there is a few very minor changes to how people are going to interact with the mall. We do shift a ring road that now comes along the front of the mall, and it now just comes in front of the plaza. We've taken great care. I think I can shift this. We've taken great care in the new design. Actually, the new design was dictated with what you're asking to make sure that how people interact with our parking flows really well with the new plaza and the entries. It's going to be much improved from what we have today. And so, yes, you will still come into the mall, but we think that the improvements that are going to happen are going to help people feel much more comfortable, much safer. And as it was said, it's just going to provide a place for people to come and experience the awesome weather that we have here in St. George, amazing events that we're going to be having, programming that's going to be happening. We want to provide something as a partner to this community that our shoppers are really going to enjoy. So, and just as a side note, regarding the case study of University Place, our partner, the Utah State Pension Fund, their consultant, Chris Longson, is the one who's responsible for that redevelopment at University Place. He's here tonight, and we work hand in hand on this, and we've taken a lot of cues from what they've done because it has been a phenomenal success, and we want to bring that to St. George. So, what other questions?
Other questions for the applicant, council?
Get her done.
No, this is exciting.
Yeah.
And you are putting some effort and money into this, and we're excited for that. So, very. Very good.
We are too.
Yep. Any other questions for the applicant?
Not a question for the applicant, but when you're ready for a motion.
I am so ready.
Okay.
I think they are too. They're ready to get to work, right?
Just so you all know, 31 years ago, I was the first general manager on that property. That's what brought me to town, so it feels a little bit like the prodigal son's come home.
Second.
That is, I just got told that yesterday by Dave over at the suit shop.
So if you're ready, I'd like to make a motion that we approve an ordinance amending the Red Cliff Small Plan Development Commercial Zone to modify their sign package and amend the site plan. Application is to be known as Red Cliff Small PD Amendment on approximately 39.37 acres located on the southwest intersection of Red Cliff Drive and Mall Drive.
Second.
Perfect. We have a motion by Vardell, a second by Brian. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Vardell.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Greg. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and we're excited and appreciate what you do in our community. Thank you. Okay, item number 10.
Did 9 get canceled?
Oh, 9. So I was trying, Brian. Jeez, I'm trying.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's 9 of what, 17? We're getting there. That's over halfway. It's a celebration. Do we need one?
Do you guys need them?
Go ahead, Dan. And then
Okay. I'll try to make this short. This is part 2 of one you saw a couple weeks ago. This is to consider approval of an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development zone to allow a new neighborhood development to be known as Sage Haven, Plat B, on approximately 58.58 acres, generally located east of I-15, south of Southern Parkway, and south of Auburn Hills. So that looks like something like that. All zoned PDR. And primarily residential. This is the Sage Haven neighborhood. So right here you have Auburn Hills, some various phases of Auburn Hills right here to the north. You have reviewed this northwest corner of Sage Haven. That's Plat A. This is Plat B. I should call it phase because you'll actually see a plat here in a little bit. There is kind of a donut hole in the middle of it, and that is this right here. That has not been planned yet, and that will come before you at a later date. So this section here we didn't look at with A, and we're not looking at it with B. Really, what we're looking at mostly tonight is this area right here. These are the townhomes that are being proposed in this phase of Sage Haven. So again, this is the area, and this area particularly. This is kind of zooming into that townhome area, and you can see the various builders that are going to be building in here and the various product types, and I'll go through that quickly here in a minute. So they are looking at 262 units in this pod. 197 of them will be single family, and 65 of them will be multifamily, townhomes and mews. All of these should look familiar. You've seen all of these. Oh, one thing I should mention, these that are in yellow have not been designed yet, so they'll have to come back to you once they've been fully designed by that home builder. But everything else, as far as the layout, and so forth, is designed and before you tonight. So again, Boulevard Townhomes, these are under construction in Desert Color currently. Boulevard Townhomes, this is the Territorial Ranch. These are the Muse Townhomes. This is a product by Holmes Homes. And these can be either, these can be either standalone as a single unit or a duplex, and they're kind of a side-by-side unit, kind of an interesting concept as opposed to a townhome, which is more kind of vertical, for lack of a better term. So there's the muse, again, different perspective. And then these are the colors and the materials that will be used. So that is the proposal. Planning Commission heard this. They recommended approval. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions?
Looks good.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve an ordinance amending the Desert Color Plan Development Residential Zone to allow a new neighborhood development to be known as Sage Haven, Pod 6, Plat B, on approximately 58.58 acres.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Vardell. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote as well, starting with Danielle.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Is it okay if we do the next one related to this development, then we'll take a break? You guys okay with that? Okay.
Let me see if I can find it really fast. Okay, item, I can't even remember what item we're on. 10. Item 10 is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 262 lot residential subdivision called Desert Color Sage Haven Plat B. Again, as Dan indicated, it's located within Desert Color Development. The density is 4.47 dwelling units an acre. Applicant is Bush and Gudgel, Representative Bob Hermanson. Again, as Dan indicated, here was Plat A that you've already approved. Now here's Plat B right there. And that's kind of the overall picture of it right there. And that's all I have.
That's it?
Yep.
I thought you were scrolling for more.
No, man. Dan did an excellent job. I'm not even going to try to repeat what he said.
I loved it. Good. Okay. All right. There you have it, council.
We're all just waiting.
Was it only me waiting for him to
No,
spill out some more?
I was totally waiting.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Desert Color Sage Haven Plat B, a 262 lot residential subdivision located in Desert Color Development south of Auburn Hills along the southerly extension of Carnellan Parkway.
Second.
A motion by Brian, second by Danielle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, if it's okay, let's take a 10-minute break. We'll resume at 8:05. How's that?
Oh, sounds good.
Second.
I figured he's got the company credit card.
silence would get off. Really thinking this thing through. Yeah, that's what I thought.
say the best thing? Yeah. All right, we all back? Ready? Try to keep, probably late already. Yep, it's 8:07. All right, let's go. Are we ready? Everybody back that needs to be? In case you've all forgotten, we're on item number 11.
Wes, you'll let us know when you're done?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
This time I will. I thought you guys were really intense on that project and studying it. Okay, item 11 is a request for a hillside development permit for Commerce Point North. So I'll give you just a little bit of background. It kind of gives it there. On September 23rd, we had our hillside committee meeting. We met out there on site and kind of went through the project. The applicant had submitted a landslide study as this is, and that is really the reason why this came to hillside. You know, normally hillside comes because of the slope and the topography and those kind of things. This one really wasn't about that. It was all about a geologic hazard in that it was located within the landslide area for high and very high hazard. So that was the reason it went. So they submitted a study on that, and that came, and we met on September 23rd. So we went through the meeting. The comment was made that by one of the hillside members that they felt like it did not, it really just focused on a real small area and didn't analyze the global area of the landslide. And so at that meeting, it was decided that it would be tabled, and they would, and the applicant would go back and look at the study. As you recall, right to the west of this, above it, is the Blackstone Hotel that came in a year or so ago. And so that the recommendation was to go back and look at that study, because they did a global study of the landslide in that area, to look at that study and then to to address the global landslide and its impact on this property. So they went back, and then in December they resubmitted they submitted the revised report. We took them to Hillside on December 16th, and went and addressed that landslide with their new study and kind of went over that and so forth. They did take the motion at that time, and it was a 3-1, 3 in favor, 1 against. So as we ended the meeting, we looked at it and said, none of us here at staff are any kind of expert on landslide and those kind of geologic hazards. So we decided to have a third-party reviewer review it to see what, if there was something missing or if they were comfortable with it. So we hired Russ Owens. He had recently retired about a year and a half before from Landmark, and so he was available, and so we hired him just to do a third-party review, a peer review of the study, and to also do a third-party review of the AGEC study, which he had originally done for us back in the Blackstone Hotel, and then comment on it. So he did that study. He came back with some comments on their study and said, hey, these are some items that need to be addressed. And they did. They went back. They looked at his items, and then they provided another written letter. And I think all of that's within your study. And so I'll just go. So here's the site right here. This is the site right here. Here's where the Blackstone Hotel sits. And you can see, again, there's the Maverick and so forth. So there's your general plan, zoning. Let me see if I can get to that. So if you look, let me see if I can find that picture. Anyway, the question that came up during our third-party review with the applicant was, if you look at the I'll go back up to that picture. If you look at the UGS map, which is the Utah Geologic Society, the landslide line basically clips this property about not even that far into it. It's about right through there. It kind of clips it, and then it goes back, and then it kind of weaves its way up through there. And so one of the questions our third-party reviewer had was, are they actually in the landslide or not? Now, the UGS, their maps are kind of like the general plan. They're kind of a bubble map. They have a good idea that a landslide was there based on, the formations and so forth. And so but how far it extends, they don't know. I mean, they take a pretty good guess, look at topography and things like that. But it's a bubble map that says, okay, if you're within this area, then they recommend you doing a study and analyzing it and making sure, yes, we are or no, we're not. Now, when the hotel came in, they were definitely in it, but it was the question mark. So that's why we had them go back. That's why we had them come to Hillside, was so that study could be done. So they did their study, like I said, then they redid it again based on the comments from Hillside. And basically, and I'll just give you a rough, quick review right here. So in their analysis, this is what they came up with. So this is the landslide slip plane, and this is kind of the topography that goes up the hillside. And in their analysis, and I don't know if you can see it, their analysis determined that the AGEC landslide study that was done back for the Blackstone Hotel actually had the slip plane coming out more to the east, more towards the Maverick. That's what their study showed back when they did the Blackstone Hotel. Their study came back and said that they didn't agree that it went that far, that it actually came to the surface about right there, which was west of their building, basically kind of roughly at the toe of the slope that's there now. You got that toe of the slope, and then they've rock-faced that slope. Their study came back and said, no, it daylights right there based on the soil, the subsurface conditions. And so they said, no, we think it comes here. So that's the study that we had our third-party reviewer review. He did review it, had some questions they answered. And in the end, our third-party reviewer did agree with them that it probably does daylight right there and not as far east as the AGEC study did, which was more in this area here. So in the end, their analysis basically came back and said, we do not feel, our analysis tells us that we're not within the landslide area. It daylights to the west of us. And so the only thing that they came up with was on how to mitigate the slope there, because they will be cutting into that slope. And so the report then addressed that, and the mitigation was they would be required to put an 18-inch thick retaining wall to retain their cut into the slope here, and that the footing would have to extend 4 feet below finished grade, and that's what really was the mitigation, and that was really just for the slope. As I indicated, they felt like the landslide plain was not impacting their property. So that's kind of where we left it. Again, like I said, Hillside voted 4-1 on that motion.
I have some questions.
Go for it.
So that 18-inch wall, if they build that, are we worried about does that make it so that the property above them is unable to mitigate their issues with the landslide? Is there a conflict between the two properties? So if the secant wall that's required of the hotel isn't built first, will this 18-inch wall cause a problem? Is there any sort of conflict that we need to worry about between these two properties?
I believe it would require them to push that secant wall up the slope more onto their property and then go down. So it would cause them to probably have those deeper pylons that go down into the ground. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
And then I get that we've got 2-1, but isn't there some way for us to get these three guys together in a room and say, can you guys duke this out and come out with an answer for us?
I know that Jim Nordquist, he's the one that wrote the report for the Blackstone Hotel, and we've met with him. He has met with their soils engineer. They have discussed it.
But they remained at an impasse?
Yeah, I'd have to let them discuss that.
Could we perhaps ask the applicant to maybe speak about any work that they're doing together, if they can?
Hi guys, Austin Atkin from JMI. So as far as work we're doing together with the developer
Regarding
of
the
the
wall
hill,
and the hotel,
right?
yeah.
We've met with the group doing the development up the hill from us a couple of times. We've had some phone calls with them, and we had a couple of meetings about potentially doing something together. They had originally designed the project, their project, to have the secant wall continue right there on the very west part of our property, and we had a couple of meetings and talked about it. And ultimately, they decided that they didn't want to do that. They decided that they didn't want to. It was their choice to just keep it on their side and to do their secant wall on their side of the property line. And we decided that we were okay with that. But to answer the question, I don't think that what we're doing inhibits or keeps them from doing any of their project. Yeah.
Austin, did you guys, as Wes was indicating, were you involved with meetings with your geotechnical person and Jim Nordquist, and did they ever come to an agreement that you guys were not in the landslide?
With
Jim Nordquist from AGEC, right. And your...
I wasn't there for that meeting when Jim and Chris met from GTS, but I have talked to Jim on the phone a couple of times, and he's a nice guy, and it went fine. But yeah, it sounded like they have a professional disagreement, and they're
And that
fine.
remains, I guess, is all I'm asking. So that professional disagreement remains?
Yeah, it does. Any other questions?
So I think Danielle, Councilwoman Larkin, brings up a good point. When the applicant on the hotel group came, there was a lot of discussion about, mitigating any negative impacts to surrounding property owners.
Right.
And I think that's the same concern that she's kind of expressing, and the fact that it always works out better if we can work together. What we have on this particular piece of property is experts aren't agreeing.
Right.
Wow. So the only thing for me is that we look at this hillside up and down there, and we can see what has happened in the past. And so there's a lot of concern
Right.
from when the development's done and the people are in, who are they coming to look for to say, hey, who did this? And so there is some concern there, and we're hoping that you all will work together. Now, you can't make them work with you, and so, but we are hoping that that'll occur, and that somehow we can get all the experts in the same room and figure out how to do this the right way. That being said, we're being presented tonight with this hillside permit, and do we agree?
We're going to be, at worst, we're doing nothing, and at best, we're improving the situation up the hill. And it's not going to be keeping them from doing their improvements for improving their side to do their project, which is a much bigger project, but it wouldn't be holding them back in any way. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. And by the same token, we don't want anything they do to negatively impact you
Right.
down below. So.
Right.
So that's the concern. Any other questions while the applicant's up here? Concerns? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
That's my concern is that, but we've been through, we have some of the leading minds on this stuff that have been looking at this, and there is some disagreement. So I don't know that we'll ever get them to agree, but at least our reviewer has agreed with the applicant's point and what they provided as far as their study. So
I think the courts are full of expert witnesses in opposition to each other.
That's right. Very much so. Anything legally we need to be concerned about, Sean?
I don't believe so. It really comes down to the engineers and their reports.
Okay. There you have it, counsel.
I'm ready.
All right, go for it.
I'd make a motion that we approve a hillside permit to allow development on the site of a restaurant/multi-tenant commercial building within the hillside to be known as Commerce Point North on approximately 2.13 acres located at approximately 1276 South Black Ridge Drive and 1190 South Bluff Street.
Second.
We have a motion by Vardell, a second by Brian. Any discussion on the motion?
Discussion on the motion. This is Greg.
Yes.
I just want to declare myself, I have a conflict of interest on this one potentially. I was involved with the sale of the adjacent properties, so I don't have comment and I won't be voting on this one.
Thank you, Greg. Danielle, you wanted to make a comment?
My only comment is that, I just wanted it noted that we do have that conflict that exists between the disparity between the experts. But I understand that we've got 2-to-1, so we'll go forward.
Perfect. Excellent point, Danielle. Thank you. Any other discussion? We have the motion. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 12.
Let's see.
Greg eating chips. Greg, if you're eating chips, we can hear it.
I'm scrolling my mouse wheel. That's what that is.
It did sound like eating chips.
Okay. So item 12 is a conditional use permit for building 1200 on the property we just barely discussed. You can see here it's located behind the Maverick. The zoning is C2, which is highway commercial. And the general plan is also commercial. Here, again, you can see the location of the proposed building. Here's the site plan. If the council will remember, we had this building 1100 come through earlier in the year, and was approved. Here's the current proposed building with a restaurant and then like a drive-through drink facility. I think it's a drink facility. Anyway, you can see here they have the drive-through here with plenty of stacking room here. The parking does comply with city standards. And here we have the elevations. The elevations are consistent with the already approved building 1100 elevations. And here we just have the material board. Oh. What did I do? And with that, you know, I can answer any questions, or if you so choose, the applicant is here to.
Any questions, council? None? Any questions for the applicant then? They're still here? Okay. No questions? Let's go for it.
I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to the development Commerce Point Building 1200 on Lot 3 in the Commerce Point Phase 1 commercial subdivision on approximately 16 acres located at the intersection of Bluff Street and Black Ridge Drive.
Second.
Motion by Brian, second by Vardell. Just no roll call vote needed for a conditional use permit, is there? No. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Oh, nice. Down to preliminary plats.
Let's see. No, why isn't my...
Sorry, Wes, you're not done, are you?
No, I got two.
Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Wes is just waiting for a motion.
I just want to make sure you weren't waiting for a motion.
Yeah, go ahead and make it. Go ahead. Let me find that. Okay. The next item is a request to approve a preliminary plat for a 76-lot residential subdivision called Fairway East, phases 1 through 4. Site is located in the Ledges development at approximately 1180 West Ledges Parkway. The property is 26.13 acres for a density of 2.91 dwelling units an acre. Zone is PDR. Applicant is Development Solutions Group. Representative is Logan Blake. So here's, you can see here's the zoning right there. This is where it lays out. Here's the golf course. This is, I can't remember what these are called. But anyways, this is where it is. It's kind of on the eastern edge of what they've developed so far. And then this is their subdivision layout. They will have to, their drainage comes down this road here. They're piping it through here, so they'll have to provide a 25-foot easement, which they show right here, as that storm drain line will go between these two pads. These are all single-family lots by themselves. The rest of these are pads with common area in between. So that would go in that common area right there, that 25-foot easement between the two pads. Then their drainage, which is similar to what they've done with other of their projects here, most of the drainage comes and is retained, detained and retained here on the golf course from the roads and the homes and that and so forth. This would be similar to that. So they'll have a storm drain line, which is represented right there. It'll come in and they'll create a detention area, retention area right here on the golf course that will take all the drainage from this development and probably to the north as it develops and be there. And they'll have to give us they'll be required to provide a 25-foot easement right there. And then work out an agreement with the city, because it's similar. We're working with an agreement right now on this as far as maintenance. We're requesting that they maintain it since it's their golf course. And so that would be, this would either be amended into that agreement or being, or included with that agreement that we're still trying to work out with them right now. The phase 4, which is this phase right here, which extends down to the south of the Gulf or south and east, this could not develop until at such time as the subdivisions here to the west and the south, as this will provide sewer and drainage. So this would be conditioned on it can't develop until those further developments come from the south and the west. That's really it.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions? Not ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve this preliminary plat for a 76-lot residential subdivision on 1180 West Ledges Parkway.
Second.
Motion by Danielle, second by Ardell. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next time is request to approve a preliminary plat for a 47-lot residential subdivision called Rosalia Ridge at DeVario. Site is located along DeVario Canyon Drive just south of the Verano Vista subdivision, which is about 600 south. Property is 13.38 acres for a density of 3.51 dwelling units an acre. Zone is R16. Applicant is Rosenberg Associates. Representative is Alan Hall. So it's right here. Here's Verano Vista. This is Sasita, I believe. I get the names mixed up. And then this is the one that recently came before you with the hillside right there. This is Salerno or PA10. So that's where it's located. So here's your subdivision. We will be looking, there is some open space right here between Verano and them. We'll be looking for that to be dedicated with this development, with the plats for this, as now they've established their boundary lines for both subdivisions, and so we'll look for that being dedicated right there. They will have to mitigate the grading along here. As you can see, it goes into the open space, and we'll look for them to mitigate that out through either revegetation or something of that form. And then their sewer actually goes off-site right here, comes through here, and over here, and into the sewer line coming out of Verano Vista that goes into what's that called now? Gap Canyon Drive, or Gap Canyon Parkway. And so we'll look for them to have to mitigate that as well, the disturbance of the open space here for that utility line.
Good. Any questions?
So when they dedicate, does that create any additional responsibility or liability for the city?
On the open space?
Yeah.
It's part of the agreement with them that they're going to dedicate these open space areas to the city. They're going to have trails through there, bike trails and things like that. So it's something that they've worked out prior to this.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. The question was, does that create additional cost or expense or responsibility, liability for the city to have that now?
Obviously, if we put an improvement on there, we have to maintain it. When we get these hillsides that are left in their natural state, we have immunity for property that's left in its natural state. So that's the general answer.
Very good. Good question. Ardell? Any other questions? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve item number 14 on our agenda, the approval of a preliminary plat for Rosalia Ridge at DeVario, 47-lot residential subdivision located in the DeVario development, south of the Verano Vista subdivision along DeVario Canyon Drive at approximately 600 south.
Second.
Except for it's Gap Canyon Drive, right? Is it DeVario Canyon Drive? Is that a different
Yeah,
road?
it is right here. This is.
Oh, just kidding.
And then Gap
You
Canyon
got it right.
Parkway is this one. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Perfect.
I thought it was typed up wrong.
We have a motion by Vardell and a second by Brian, right? It's getting late. Any discussion on the motion? No. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Could it be?
Woo.
What else do we got? Do we have?
Did the mayor mention an appointment tonight?
Not to me or in my notes. Are you?
No, but I'm going to do it quickly since I'm still awake.
All right, I was going to say, are you there, Michelle?
Barely.
Okay.
I just need to formalize and appoint Bardell to the Shade Tree Board. So if somebody wants to make that motion, that'd be great.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Bardell Curtis to the Shade Tree Board.
Second.
Whoa, man, that's a resounding.
Ooh,
So we have
wants him.
yeah, everybody wants him on the shade tree. I could think of a few things about shade, right? Motion. We have a motion by Greg and a second by who was the second? Danielle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No way. Not going to oppose.
Thank
that.
you. That's all I have. Good night, you all.
Go back to sleep.
Are there any other reports that we need to make tonight?
I just handed you guys all these tickets for the dance, St. George Dance Company, and they would love for us to come and see them dance. They're doing a performance at the Electric Theater. It looks like this weekend. So that's it.
I would like to say we had an outstanding training with the police officers yesterday. If y'all get a chance, I would take the chance on the 30th to go.
Is it the 30th, Brian, or the 31st?
31st,
I gotta make
I
sure I
think.
got it.
31st.
Okay.
So I'm planning on going. So you.
I'm planning on going.
And Greg,
too.
since you missed it, you can go on the 31st.
I think
I
I'll
plan
go
on
back
going.
too.
We hope to be there on the
I
31st.
think I'll go back too.
No, you're going to take all the bullets. No. No, that's good. Yeah, why not?
By the way, I have attended my first shade tree meeting already, and the one noteworthy item is that for Arbor Day, their service project is going to be planting trees out at the Tonnequint Cemetery on that most recently opened up section of the cemetery. So
Nice.
should be good.
Yeah. Did you leave, Michelle?
I'm sure she
Okay,
did.
that's good. I'll talk to her later about.
No,
Oh,
I didn't.
Just remind me in case I forget about the governor's board on homelessness. I don't know if you've gotten information on that Mayor Pike sat on, and I'm sure you have a seat on there. So just remind me to talk about that later, because we just want to make sure we're getting represented there. I'm assuming. I'm assuming that the seat's still there. That's still St. George's, so that would be you.
Yes,
So.
I do have a seat on that board, and yeah,
Okay,
so
perfect.
we're good there.
Good. Is there anything else needs to be? We did have a DTEC meeting. I don't know if there was anything we need to report from there. Everything's going along like everything else, where we're super busy, and traffic projects are getting moved up. So other than that,
And just remember the city cleanup tomorrow in the morning from 7 to 9. If whoever can go on Pioneer
Park.
On Red, what's it called? I can't even think. You know where?
Pioneer Park, isn't it?
Yes.
Perfect. 7. Did you say 7?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Vardell, second by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Get well, Michelle.